So once again, good morning, everyone. Maayong buntag ka natong tanan. Maayong buntag, and thank you very much for accepting our invitation to be with us here today as we have this conversation on mythology, folklore, and adolescent and children's literature. So daghan king salamat. Again, welcome to the beautiful campus by the sea, Silliman University. And we are joined today by not just Sillimanians, but also friends from the other institutions, okay? So maybe we can do a roll call, okay, before we start our program today. So if I call your names or your institution, kindly stand, okay, to be recognized. So let's begin with the organizing the home unit, okay, for this particular conversation. So may I request our friends from the Silliman University College of Education. Can you please stand? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. And I think you're all required to be here, so daghang kayong salamat. Maybe for our student teachers, they will follow shortly after they have rendered their student teaching in their respective laboratory schools. Now, we are also joined by our friends from the senior high school, so may I request our students from the Silliman University Senior High School. All right, there they are. Thank you very much, students. Okay, and this time I'd like to acknowledge our friends from St. Paul University, Dumaguete. Okay, thank you very much. Also, our friends from Negros Oriental State University. Do you have our friends from Negros Oriental State University? Okay, I think they will just follow. How about our friends from Colegio de Santa Catalina de Alejandria? Okay, there they are. Daghang king salamat. Also, we can see friends from Foundation University. Please stand to be recognized. Thank you. And did I miss anyone? Did I miss anyone? Okay, I think these are all our invited guests. So daghang king salamat. Welcome again to the beautiful campus by the sea, Silliman University. And of course, this time we are celebrating our 125th founding anniversary here in Silliman University. So we hope to see you again, okay, around campus as we celebrate our Hibalag Festival. All right, so at this point, may we now invite everyone to settle comfortably as we open with a prayer to be led by Nel Anton Tolete, and this will be followed by the singing of the Philippine National Anthem. So everyone, please rise.
May we all bow down our heads. Dear Father, we glorify your most holy and precious name. Thank you for this wonderful day and for gathering us at this meaningful academic event. Father, we ask to please forgive our sins and trespasses and help us move on to our lives. Father, at this moment, give us the heart to listen to the learnings and insights from this event. Also, give us wisdom to understand the perspectives and increase our cultural awareness. And peace to engage meaningfully in the conversations that will take place later. Father, may this opportunity help us become better, well-informed educators and writers along our journey. And become more culturally sensitive individuals. May all we do in your most holy and precious name. All of this we ask in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
Ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Thank you very much. You may now take your seats. And once again, welcome to Silliman University and welcome to this special conversation on navigating literature in the 21st century education. This is a lecture series on Philippine mythology, folklore, and children's and adolescent literature. And what a great way to kick off, okay, the 125th founding anniversary of Silliman University and the Hibalag Festival. And we are grateful to all our partners who have accepted this invitation to be with us today. Also, this event is made possible by the English Club of the College of Education in Silliman, that's ECCOES. So can we give a round of applause to our organizers for making this possible under the College of Education and also through partnerships with the Department of English and Literature through the Edilberto and Edith Tiempo Creative Writing Center. Now, stories have always found ways to stay with us, okay? We inherit them, sometimes retell them, and oftentimes change them. And in many ways, they help us understand who we are and the world we live in. And we are very grateful for today that we have invited our friends from the Silliman University National Writers Workshop, the oldest and longest running creative writing workshop in Asia, to share insights on Philippine mythology, folklore, and children's literature. First off is our friend, one of the fellows for fiction, okay, and a prolific writer, a prolific Sugilanon writer. We have John Dante over here. And later on, joining us will be an award-winning writer, Palanca Award-winning writer, resident panelist of the Silliman University National Writers Workshop and Literature and Creative Writing Professor, Professor Ian Rosales Casocot. And at this point, to formally welcome us to this gathering, help me welcome the Dean of the College of Education, Dr. Gina Fontejon Bonior.
Daghang salamat, Sir John. Mayong buntag ka natong tanan. On behalf of the College of Education, I would like to welcome all of us to this conversation. This is something that is so close to my heart because myths are my favorite genre or form of literature, and I also like children's literature. And later on, Ian will also be talking about adolescent literature, which is part of children's literature. Karong buntaga, dako kay akong kalipay that Sir John, traveled all the way from Cebu to share with us his expertise, his insights and experiences in writing myths and talking about myths. Ako excited ko kay jutay ra gid kaay nato no nga maghisgot og myth nga kanang anchored man gyud na sa atong kinsa kita. So being from Bisaya, I think it's very important that we also get to know our own myths. Okay? And before we become experts in or readers of other people's myths, it's always good to be anchored or grounded on our own myths. Unsa man kuno ang Bisaya sa myth? I'm excited to hear kung unsa ka mga pinulungan na sa Bisaya no sa myth. Sa literature, unsa pod Bisaya sa literature? Kabalo ra ta usually sa Filipino kay na mga libro panitikan. Pero sa Bisaya, wala kay siya. So I'm really excited to listen to the talk of Sir John because I am excited to know about how local language is being represented and how our identity is being represented in the works of our local writers. Daghan kaayong salamat ninyo nga ni join karon IC colleagues na si Dr. Banwa from COSCA. Daghan kaayong salamat ma'am for coming. And perhaps ang ato sang mga kaubanan from St. Paul's and from Foundation, basi napon mo join ninyo no nga faculty and staff. Daghan kaayong salamat for making time for this conversation. Good morning everyone and welcome.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Bonior. And one fun fact about Sir John Dante, aside from he's one of the fellows of the 61st, am I correct, Sir John? 61st Silliman University National Writers Workshop is also, he was part, okay, of the Batalad Sugbo creative writing workshop, which just culminated a few days ago, right? Okay, so thank you very much, sir, for accepting this invitation and for being with us today. So this gathering is also made possible by the generosity and support of our partners and sponsors. And to acknowledge our partners and the different organizations who have helped this day possible, may I call in the marketing head of ECCOES, Mr. Elwin Kim Torres.
Good morning, everyone. Maayong buntag kanatong tanan. It is my privilege and honor to stand before you this morning for navigating literature in the 21st century education. On behalf of the organizers, I would like to express our sincere appreciation to the individuals and organizations whose support and generosity have contributed to the success of this gathering. I'd like to begin by expressing our heartfelt gratitude to the SUSG Sociocultural Committee for providing the manpower and assistance necessary for this event. We also like to equally grateful to the Edilberto and Edith Tiempo Creative Writing Center under the English and Literature Department of the College of Arts and Sciences for their valuable support and assistance. Our sincere appreciation also goes to the College of Education Student Organization for its generous financial assistance, and to the College of Education, Silliman University College and Arts of Council in facilitating the use of audiovisual theater and for its continuous support. We would also like to recognize Ms. Casey, if she's here right now, for her generous support in this event. Our recognition also goes to our ECCOES president, Nel Anton Tolete, for his leadership and support in this endeavor. We gratefully acknowledge our sponsors, Tisha Flores Hunculada of Drip Coffee and Mr. and Mrs. Valmeo for Greg Shore Reception Facility for their generous financial contributions. I would also like to extend my deepest appreciation to my marketing co-head, Rizzi Margaret Solarte, for her commitment, support, and dedication throughout our work with ECCOES. I am truly grateful for her partnership and for carrying all the responsibilities alongside me. To our literary writers, educators, partners, and supporters, and also our participants today, we offer our profound appreciation for your presence and support. Your contributions have helped bring this gathering to fruition. And we are also deeply grateful for your part in making it meaningful. As we begin this gathering, may we remain open to ideas, stories, and perspectives literature brings. May we be reminded that literature does more than to inform. It shapes minds, it enriches lives, and inspires change. Thank you, and may you all have a pulchritudinous morning.
Okay, thank you very much, Kim. So I think we are now excited to get to know our resource persons today, okay? And well, one of our resource persons will follow in a few, okay? But we are also excited to hear also insights and meaningful conversations from our first resource person. So to introduce our guests this morning, help me welcome the chair of the Department of English and Literature of the College of Arts and Sciences, Dr. Joan C. Generoso.
Mayong buntag sa tanan. Thank you so much, John. It's actually an honor to introduce our speakers for this morning. Let me introduce first John Dante. He is the Cebuano author who wrote the expansive high fantasy books, Surumawa, short novel, and Sugilamat sa Balmaya, short story collection. He was a fellow of the Silliman University National Writers Workshop, Iligan National Writers Workshop, and IAS Lazal National Writers Workshop. He is a recipient of the Gawad Bienvenido Lumberto Award, the Jimmy Balakwit Award, and the prestigious Carlo Palanca Memorial Award. Friends, ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome John Dante. Let's give him a round of applause. Let me also introduce our speaker who will be here shortly. He is Professor Ian Rosales Casocot. He is a graphic artist, film teacher, and critic, an award-winning novelist. He has won 9 Palanca Awards for his fiction, drama, and children's poetry, as well as an NVM Gonzalez Special Prize and a PBBY Salanga Grand Prize. He has also won the Neil Gaiman Fully Booked Speculative Fiction Award twice. His books include the short story collections, Old Movies, and Other Stories, Beautiful Accidents, Heartbreak and Amp, Magic, First Sight of Snow, Don't Tell Anyone, Bamboo Girls, and The Last Days of Magic, Stories. He edited the anthologies Future Shock Prose, an anthology of young writers and new literatures. Celebration, an anthology to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Silliman University National Writers Workshop, and The Gentlest City Imagined, an anthology of literary works about Dumaguete City and Negros Oriental. He also edited Handulantao, celebrating 50 years of culture and the arts of Silliman University. His novel, Sugarland, was long-listed for the 2008 Man Asian Literary Prize. In 2025, he was recipient of the Outstanding Dumagueteño Award for his contribution to literature and cultural work. Friends, let's welcome later on Professor Ian Casocot. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Generoso. And at this point, it is my honor to again introduce our first resource person who will be talking about old myths, new myths, and our myths. Friends, I give you John Dante.
Okay ra ba ni tantangon ang microphone? Ako lang tantangon na. Ya, maganaan na ako. May buntag. Ako day si John Dante. Gikan pa og Sugbo. Nya bago ra may nahuman sa mong pasinati. Unay binisaya sa workshop. Bago ra may naman sa pasinati dito sa Sugbo sa Bathalad. Unya, naabot ko dere gahapon lang. O karon lecture na. Hibo mo tanong, unsa man yung ipang bit, ipang sulob-sulob. That's part of the myth-making process. Kamo na'y balag interpret, ana. Sige. Sugdan na natong Orimos, Rian. Please allow me, I will be code switching a lot. So, mitolohiya. Maghisgot tag mitolohiya, no? Unsa may inyong mahuna-hunaan kung maghisgot tag mitolohiya? Nangutan na to, kinsa ta si Mamon sa binisaya sa mythology. Mura naman, mitolohiya. Kaya ang sa ato amang god sa una, di man na siya mythology, pagtuog na siya. Like we pre-colonial Filipinos believed, awa pa to Filipinas, di pa to Filipinos, they believed nga these are kana real, these chants, these epics are real. So pagtuog ni siya. So karon kay tungod kasabot naman taon sa ni mitolohiya ni siya. Nya ang literature panitikan sa Tinagalog sa Binisaya katitikan. Gikan sa gamot pulong, root word nga titik, letter. Old myths, new myths, ug our myths. So ang mitolohiya, naggamit siya daghang mga simbolo para maka-convey, maka-push og ideas og emotions, kasaysayan, cultural identities through history. So panlitan ka na, sa man ang mga simbolo na Ankh, Egyptian Ankh, A-N-K-H, manay symbol of life, napod ang Caduceus. Familiar kay mo ana, mo na ang symbol sa medicine, Ragikan po na ni Hermes. Kani, ang bitin nga nagkaon siyang kawalingong ikog, ang Ouroboros, symbol of cycles. Kana, ang triquetra, symbol of infinity, an infinite loop. It is a knot, kanang gihigot siya nga, infinite. Kani, unsa maning kamot nga naay mata, that is the hamsa hand that drives away the evil eye. So kana, sige, padayon tariyan. Ang atong hunahunaon sa kanang pamulong karong buntaga, no? Labi na kaning giingon ni Carl Jung. Kaila mo ni Carl Jung? Niingon si Carl Jung nga, the collective unconscious contains the whole spiritual heritage of mankind's evolution born anew in the brain structure of every individual. Unsa may pasabot ana, daghag simbolo, daghag mga instances, daghag things nga nagbalik-balik na ni siya sukad pa sa kukaraan. Ever since time immemorial, same symbols have been recurring again and again throughout our culture, our society, and our history. Muna ang sa archetype nga theory ni Carl Jung, nga lain-lain nga archetypes, magbalik-balik na siya. Sige, padayon ta. Kanipod si Joseph Campbell, nga nagsunod po ni siya, nagsubay po ni siya ni Carl Jung. Ingon po siya, mythology is not a lie. Mythology is not a lie. It is poetry. It is metaphorical. Mythology pitches the mind to be beyond that rim to what can be known but not told. Naay instances nga naay mga masabtan na to pero di na to malitok. Di ba? Palitan. Mulantaw ka. Nakay uyab. Palitan, nakay uyab. Lantaw ka siyang mata. Di ka mo ingon og I love you, pero mulantaw na ka siyang mata. Nay kasabutan, ana. It is not told, it is understood. Those are the same things. Mythology is something we use in history to explain stuff that cannot be expressed by words alone. These are ideas, grand, big ideas that express the significant experiences of humankind. Inana ka-importante ang mitolohiya. Kay nagsamin siya, it's reflecting who we are and what we need and why we're here, why we persist as a species, as a race, why we continue despite everything being so chaotic and everything almost being so meaningless. Why do we persist? We try to find those answers in mythology. Ipadayon. So, do myths still exist today? Or to be specific, unsa nga mga mitolohiya ang nag-exist pa karon nga panahon? Kabot ba ni ring remote? Kaya basi di ka kita silang ma'am diha. Okay, thank you. Do myths still exist today? So i-define unya na nato kung unsa gid ang mitolohiya, unsay mga bag-o natong mga pagtan-aw sa mitolohiya nga akong personal idea nga i-present nako ninyo, kamo nay bahala og inyo bandawaton o di binutbot man ikan jandante, kamo nay bahala mag huna-hunaan na. Sige, padayon ta. Ang atong hisgotan, Campbellian monomythic symbols, mga symbols nga gipanghisgotan ni Campbell nga nakatunan na po niya ni Carl Jung, dayon archetypes nga makita na to across different kinds of media, especially kanang related to literary, film, and all. Our pre-colonial epics, katong sa wala pata sa kupa, unsa man to'y naadig to before, o unsa na'y moderno na tong epiko karon. Sige. Okay, sige. Campbellian monomythic symbol. So si Campbell, daghan ni siya kanang gipanghisgutan nga mga recurring symbols. Daghan yun kayo. So di na ko hisgutan tanan kay limited man atong time karon. Maghisgot lang tagpipila. Sige, next Rian. Mga world trees. Nakabantay mong maglakaw mo sa hibard niya, ilaw sa mga akasya kay masense ninyo ang sense of protection, the vitality of that road compared to other roads nga walay kahoy. Di ba lahi ra maglakaw kag hibard? Ma-feel na ninyo, especially if magbantay gyud mo. Like inyong kanang tuyoon o kanang lakaw ba nga wala mo gadali o mo ilang giyon na huna. Sway na ninyo. Walk under the shade of old trees and you will feel something. You will feel a connection that you might have not been feeling before kay mo lagi busy kay sa life. Sa una nay gitawag nga Yggdrasil ang Nordic myths nga connecting Asgard to the other 8 kay nine realms man Asgard all the way down to Niflheim at the roots. Unya karon sa atong panahon karon gigamit gyapon ni nga simbolo. Kakita na mo sa Avatar ni James Cameron. Dili katong si ang kanang airbender. Katong Avatar ni James Cameron naay katong Tree of Souls, si Ewa. So si Ewa sa ilang world sa Pandora kay mo'y nag-connect sa tanan nga living organisms dito. Nya may nahimong murag goddess nila. So kana trees give us a sense of connection. It gives us a sense that a community, a well-knit and kind of connected community thrives. It survives. It is vitalized each time. By the way, kanang kamunlay bahalag basa sa words kay di na present ra ni nako dere mag-discuss ra kog tama ninyo. Sige, next Rian. Sacred mountains. The first time I saw Mount Talinis, jaw drop ko. Dikto tato Miss Casey sa lubnganan nilang Doc Edog Ma'am Edith. Nya, tan-aw na ko la. Abli ang mga pangandod lang induta sa bukid ay. It is awe-inspiring. Looking up at a mountain is awe-inspiring. Morning kasagaran, for example, Mount Olympus. Why do the Greeks think nga the gods live in Mount Olympus? Because if you look up, you feel small. You feel like there is something greater, something beyond you that is out there. So nagbalik-balik na karon kinsa nagdog Pokemon diri. Sa Pokemon Platinum sa 4th generation nagitawag nga Mount Coronet. Nagdog Pokemon. Sige. Naigitawag nga Mount Coronet. Digto pod ang seat sa kanang god sa Pokemon nga naay time god nga si Dialga, naay space god nga si Palkia, nya si Arceus nga murag kanang god nila tanan sa mga Pokemon nya. Naay poy reverse identity god nga murag renegade god nila nga si Giratina. So kana these are recurring things kay we know for a fact nga there are things beyond our understanding. Our human mind is too limited and too small to understand so many things about the universe. So we defer to symbols like that, like the mountain. The mountain is so tall. The mountain is so inspiring. The mountain is so powerful because there is something beyond us that we can't really explain. Na mga pong nga mahibaw-an pero dili malitok. Sige, sunod. Primordial seas, mga dagat. Kita mga Bisaya kay built-in may gininato ang dagat because we're an archipelagic nation. Seas connect us more than roads, more than mountain. Actually, mountains divide us. Kabantay mo nga kanang dere sa oriental kay mga Bisaya nya na may bukid niya. Dito sa Pecas ang mga Hiligayno na kay tungod bulag sa mountains. Pero ang mga dagat kay tungod ang oriental nag-face man sa Cebu. So mga Bisaya ta diri nag-abot so ang mga dagat mag-connect na siya. Pero ang dagat dili bayasan nimo masabtan usahay kay linong. Natoy one time nga ay seaman ko before naka-travel ako niya. Dikto mi atog kanang Bermuda Triangle or padong mi sa Bermuda Triangle. Ang problema kay ang barko namo padong mag-Mexico. Nya, wa mi laing agianan kay na may bagyo sa babaw, nya na may bagyo sa ubos. Di sa tunga na lang gyud mi niagi kay nagdali man mi kay amo ihatod pang karga na mga petroleum coke. So 3 days before, linong kayo the Beaufort scale 0, the sea was like a mirror, and from the west I saw pods, hundreds, I don't know if it reached thousands, takay ba pila to ka dolphins, ala sila, gapanon, racing towards the east. It was a beautiful sight, kay linong man kayong dagat, nya sila ray nagdagkisaw dito, nga daggan yung kay sila naglumba sila, kanang panglangoy ang mga dolphin. So, 3 days later, grabing bagyuhan lang yun. Grabing bagyuhan. Di mo matag na ang dagat ba? Kay, ang giwang-giwang to sa barko kay tag 35 degrees na ang rolling na mo port og starboard, ang mga libro dito sa bridge nang lupad na ang mga alarma sa cargo hold nagsige nagpag sige nagana di nimo matag na ang dagat mo nang kani ancient Egyptians kasabot sila ani ilabi na nga mo nang gitagna na nilang tinod ang pag-flood sa River Nile kay mahurot man nilang kanang crops. So, mo nang important kay nila si Nun, ang god nila sa primordial waters. Nga gikan sa primordial waters ni Nun, nibutho ang katong egg, ang sun god egg, nga nibutho ang sun god nga si Ra. In modern nga kanang reconstructions of the same symbols, kinsay nakabasa diri kanang The Silmarillion. Way mo basag Silmarillion. Ako ra may buang nga mo basag Silmarillion tingali. ang Beleger, there is this what they call the Sundering Seas. Now the elves in Middle Earth, in The Lord of the Rings, kay immortals ni sila. But pwede sila mamatay, of course. But what if di ka mamatay? Di ka doslakon dihag ka ng kutsilyo na mamatay ka. You grow very old and then you grow very tired. So what do these elves do when they tire of the world? They sail through the sundering seas, and in the waters only known to them, they catch winds only known to them, sail past it and towards Valinor where the gods reside. And that's where they live the rest of their immortal lives. So mana siya ang sundering seas. And that sea has swallowed islands, sunk whole continents. So the sea is a symbol of transformation, of change, unpredictability, but also of depth, of meaning, those things. Sige, sunod riyan. Dragons. Kinsa may wakailag dragon ba? There is a Mesoamerican myth sa Aztecs. We have Quetzalcoatl. So Quetzalcoatl is the feathered serpent god, a creator god, the bringer of rains. So we think that dragons are these dangerous because they are often kanang symbolizing kanang the untamed wilds, di ba? But they are also kanang guardians of all things natural. So like the seas, they are unpredictable. Pero karon nga makita na to si Toothless sa How to Train Your Dragon, di ba? Night Fury siya. The Night Fury will eat you. They're very dangerous, the most dangerous dragons. Nya, ka-cute ni Toothless. But so inana siya. You will never know because there are things in life that you will judge to be dangerous, but well, in fact, they are really they are good. They are good. Sometimes because we hope to survive, we try to look at the bad in other things to protect us, but we fail to remember that there is always good in each one. Sige, next. Trickster animals. So sa Native American myths, like sa mga Cherokee, so ang mga coyote nila kay mga kuan sila mga guide, magkuan sa mga souls, magda sa mga souls towards afterlife. Sa Studio Ghibli, sa katong My Neighbor Totoro, napod ang katbas nga katong ga-guide nila dito, gikuha sila dito, gida sila dito sa may hospital, pagtanaw silang mama nga na hospital and every kuya wa bitaw na ko ato. Abi no mamatay ang mama magiwa. Spoilers. So the cat bus is there. So there are kanang trickster animals, but these trickster animals promote change, promote transformation. They are catalysts to things that evolve. So nya dili ra na kutob sa animals na si Loki, the trickster god, si Hermes, the god of thieves, and Puck from Mr. Marnite's dream. nga iyang gi-change ang katong silang Titania na nagkagubot na ng tanan and everything. So kana these trickster symbols are usually maingon ta nga sa mukha nila evil. No, they're not evil. They're just chaotic, but they promote change, transformation. Sige, next. Divine objects. Nganong kuan man kay ta nganong obsessed man kay tag kanang divine objects? Maybe probably because we are living things and we want to hold to material stuff here and we try to give meaning to them, to try to own them. So in Arthurian legends, there is what they call the Holy Grail, ang katong chalice nga gigamit ni Jesus Christ sa Last Supper. So karon niingon there was a prophecy nga the one who will be able to find the Holy Grail is the purest of all the knights of the realm. So all of the knights of the round table sought out the Holy Grail, but only one of them, out of the 12 knights of the round table, not even King Arthur was able to find it. Only Sir Percival was able to find the Holy Grail. So he was the only one deemed worthy to be in the presence of the very chalice that Jesus Christ used during the Last Supper. Unya karon pero ang kaning Holy Grail, mura man sa good siya kanang nag-symbolize nga ang makuha ani ang katurag yung kanang mga putli, ang mga kuan. So there's always that requirement to something. Just like the Infinity Stones, di ba? Nga gipang-collect ni Thanos kay ngano, na siya intention, however bad the outcome is, pero na siya intention nga good unta nga kay ang resources everything limited, so i-prone niya ang kanang all life in the universe with just a snap of his fingers. So ang Holy Grail nga nagpakita nga ug kaputli sa makapangita ato, si Thanos gibali siya nga kanang ang divine object nanon nahimo siyang reflection sa unsa siya ka corrupted. He is not seeing the bigger picture na gyud unta. Sige, next. Labyrinths. So kani sa Crete, familiar mo sa legend sa Minotaur? Kinsa man to nagpatay sa Minotaur? Dili si Perseus. Pero rhyming ni Perseus. Theseus, yes. Theseus and the golden thread. So, giyatagan siya golden thread ni so siya dito kay na may i-offer nga mga virgin sa Minotaur kay ang kaning Minotaur anak man ni King Minos dito. Nya na ipang-offer nga virgins every year nya gi-offer si Theseus. Nya karon na in love man ang kanang anak ni Minos, so kanagiyatagan siya golden thread para makabalik ra siya. He killed the Minotaur. He was able to escape the labyrinth. Kaning sa atong bag-o karon, kinsay familiar sa The Wheel of Time ni Robert Jordan? Yes, di ba? If they want to cross and have shortcuts through continents, they go through the ways. Ang problema, if you stay there too long, there is also a Minotaur-like creature nga mugo after it's the machine chin. The machine chin will try to destroy you if you are there in the ways for too long. It will corrupt you. It will eat you alive. So kana, sige, next. Maulan sa to siya ang kuha ng symbols. Daghan yung kay actually og symbols nga recurring. Giari na ta sa archetypes. Kana, kinsa man na nga tao? Familiar man na kinsa siya? Yeah, it is Tur. And he is wielding Mjolnir. Yes, Mjolnir. Sige, next. Sige. The very first, the oldest recorded story is the Epic of Gilgamesh. It is a Mesopotamian epic. It tells the story of King Gilgamesh, the tyrant. Now, because he was a tyrant, the gods created Enkidu, a demigod, a half monster, nga nag-wrestle sila ni Gilgamesh for a very long amount of time to the point nga they earned the respect of one another. And then they became the best of friends. Like, best friend na kayo sila. Now, Enkidu died. And then, Gilgamesh wept for so long. Sakit kayo ang kamatayo ni Enkidu para niya to the point that he went on a quest to seek immortality. And that is the premise of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Now, in the present time, we have literature, the Lord of the Rings, the friendship of Sam and Frodo. If Samwise Gamgee was not there to help the ring bearer, they would not have arrived at Mount Doom to destroy the ring. And if they also did not spare Gollum or Smeagol, he would not have been there to like take the ring away and then fall into the lava to finally destroy the ring. So these are friendships, especially human connection is important. And mythology is always teaching us that. So kanang, well, of course, you can be a hermit, you can be antisocial, but in the end, you will only survive if you have a community helping you, or if you have somebody else who will be there to help you, and you help them in return. Sige, next. So, Prometheus, the Titan Prometheus. The Titan Prometheus, nakakita siya nga, injustice naman eh. The gods have all of these kanang technologies, but then the mortals are very primitive. So what he did is he stole fire from the gods and gave it to the people. Kinsa may ato sa folk stories karon nga recent, si Robin Hood. He steals from the caravans of rich merchants passing by Sherwood Forest. O niya iyang ipang uli sa mga tao. So nagbalik-balik na karaan na kay nga story nga kanang nay mga aktivista. Kinsa aktivista diri? Oh, padayon mo sa inyong pagka-aktivista kay karaan na kay ni siya, karaan na kay siya. Prometheus is the one of the very first recorded activists tingali nga iyang gibalik ang kuan para equal distribution of wealth and knowledge. Sige, next. Si Heracles. Heracles is the symbol of strength. Pero what happened to him? He murdered his own family. And because of that, he was sent on quests to redeem himself. O nya, sa comics, kinsa ato si Superman, Clark Kent, the symbol of strength and power, nga naay weakness to kryptonite. So, these are recurring symbols. Sukad pa sa una, Heracles was there. Then now, we have Superman sa atong time. Symbols of strength, symbols of fortitude, symbols of protection. Next. And then, for the Chinese myth, we have Sun Wukong. Sun Wukong ate the katong unsa tong fruit, kalimot ko atong fruit sa mga gods nga di pwede pakaon unta, but he ate it and then he gained wisdom. And eventually, he nakita niya nga ay mga gods medyo bureaucratic man kay mo ditan ninyo ay mag-defy tan ninyo muna. But in manga, kinsay tigbasa din ni One Piece ni Ichiro Oda, di ba? So Monkey D. Luffy is actually designed after Sun Wukong, so medyo monkey-ish sad kay siya. They are very kanang light-hearted, they are very unyielding, ang ilhang wisdom is more gut instinct, dili siya like brainy wisdom, they're into instinct. Okay, next. So, Beowulf from the Teutonic myths. So we have Beowulf, who is a monster slayer, slew Grendel's mom, then slew the dragon after that, died on that after the fight with that dragon from his grievous wounds. But he died as a very noble king, defending his people. For video games, ang nana to karon, Geralt of Rivia, toss a coin to the Witcher. So si Geralt fought Strigas, fought Leshies. In the end, how did he die? He died kanang in obscurity nga. He was protecting a group of kanang villagers from an angry mob. So there is nanay changes. So naay myth sa una, they used the same characteristics, gipang change gamay para mas masabtan nato karon, applicable sa ato ang generation karon. Same ra gina video games very immersive. Next. Okay, so animation. See, So si Medusa is a very tragic character. See, she was there, she was a priestess for Athena in Athena's temple. She was raped by Poseidon, and then instead of punishing Poseidon, Athena punished her by turning her into her hair into snakes, and whoever her eyes gazes upon turns to stone. So she became cursed instead. Same ni Elsa sa Frozen. Kay ang iyang powers nga kuan na mo-freeze man. So she became isolated na hinoon. So this has been a very old symbol na gyud. Sukad pa ni sa una nga symbol of women being isolated. Nganong ipang-isolate man ang women? Kay patriarchal man gud ang society, ganahan man ang mga laki nga sila mo'y hawd. So ang mga babae nga unta mo'y kanang mas nakasabot o mas kanang instinctually more powerful than men, i-oppress sila sa mga lalaki kay para magpabilin ang status quo. Okay, next. Okay. Sa Bible, sa Old Testament, we have King Saul. He was so wise, di ba nga? To know who the true mother of a baby is, he advised nga the baby will be cut in half. Ang katon diriya nga ayaw. So siya dito ang tinod nga he was so wise. He has this ring that contains pila to ka hundreds of demons inside. So but then he grew boastful. Gikaon siya siyang ego. He became envious. Anakin Skywalker from Star Wars was supposed to be the chosen one. And then, because of envy, because of kanang seeking power, he wanted to save Padme Amidala from the prophecy that she will die. But then gapakaon siya sa corruption. That is a very old na gid nga myth. Sige, cinema. And another nga cinema nga example. Sige, next. Kinsay kita na sa daw a face. So, the Odyssey. So, si Odysseus, a very clever man, seafarer nga kanang going towards kanang very wild adventures at sea. And then at cinema for today, we have Captain Jack Sparrow, captain of the Black Pearl, who is very kanang sly po ng individual, very kanang cunning individual niya. Lingaw po kay sila. They gain their kanang notoriety because of their wits, their cleverness. Sige, next. Okay, we have Joan of Arc. Well, of course, she is a real person, no? She's a real person, but she was also mythologized until dugay nakaraan naman sa toyang time. And then she became a hero, she led armies, but then she was betrayed. She was burned at stake, try siya niya, witch ko na siya, so she was burned. The same rapod ni Daenerys Targaryen sa television, sa Game of Thrones, nga breaker of chains, mother of dragons, pero what happened to her in the end? Spoiler alert. So she was betrayed. So these women are betrayed. So balik-balik ni siya nga myth. Sige, next. We have Prince Arjuna of the Mahabharata. So Prince Arjuna was a very great archer, but then war comes and then he hesitates. And then Lord Krishna is naghatag si Lord Krishna niya mga advice, and the whole kanang ilahang back and forth is called the Bhagavad Gita. That is one of the best nga kanang philosophical writings in all of history. So si Arjuna. Then what do we have in the more kanang mas recent nga time? We have Hamlet from the Shakespearean tragedy, to be or not to be. There was a moral crisis before the great conflict in the end where all of them died. So okay, next. So that is theater. We even have them in paintings. So the Sphinx. Kinsa man tong nakasugat sa Sphinx. Katonay complex. Oedipus, yes, Oedipus. What was the riddle? Kinsay makatag na sa riddle. What walks on 4 legs on the morning, 2 legs at noon, and 3 legs in the evening? It's a man. And Oedipus answered it correctly. The Sphinx gave that riddle and don't get correct, threw herself off the cliff and killed herself. Then we have the Mona Lisa. The face nga riddle gyud, like we don't know what she really is expressing. So kana riddles, mga inana, these are all very common things. So kaning there are so many stuff in history, in mythology that keeps on kana magbalik-balik ra gyud siya. It's recurring. Ngano man ni? Mo lagi tay giingon ni Carl Jung nga it is already built in sa atong system because probably it is the most kanang optimal way to explain stuff. That's why eventually the mind of a person would naturally fall into those categorizations of archetypes. So kana in the end, these myths, kay karon kasabot naman ta nga stories ra gini siya, these myths are how the mind tries to categorize and understand their reality. And we are still doing that today. Ang atong stuff nga gipang literature, media nga gipang consume karon, these are all myths. Myth-making process gyapon siya. Nga in a couple thousands of years, people will look back to our time today and think of Darth Vader as one the Sith Lord nga mythical nga story na siya. So mga inana siya nga kanang instances. It comes back, people use these to understand their reality. Sige, next, Rian. Yari na ta sa pre-colonial epics na to. Kay, of course, those are world mythologies. Kita, naapuday ato Sige, next. Ang next ani kay obvious mo. Kay bawa mo ni tanan, no? Biag ni Lamang. The life of Lamang. An Ilocano epic. So, when he was born, makaistorya na siya. And he chose his name for himself. And he has extraordinary strength. Ayan, nasi amigo nga katayang iro o ganitiyang white nga rooster. Nya kanang iya maning gipanguyaban si Ines kanoyan nya to the point na naabot daghan kay istorya nga naabot siya dagat nya gikaon siya birkakan hantud mga bukog na lang niya ang nabilin. So he had to kanang nangitag pagi ang iyang iro o iyang manok nga para ma-reincarnate siya, so ma-reborn siya. So munay kanang kuan epic ni Lamang, ang mga Ilocano ang nagkuan ani. Sige, next. Sige, we have the Hinilawod from Panibukina, the sulod nun epic. So it tells about the trio of kanang brothers, si Labaw-Donggon o kanang battle nilang saragnayan, si Humadapnon. Ang katumrag siya man to'y kaning nanguyab ni Yawa, man tingali, sinagmalitong Yawa, sinagmaling Diwata. By the way, kana si Yawa ha, Yawa is not devil, gidemonize na siya sa atong colonizers kay tungod lagi babae. So gidemonize nila, Yawa, devil, gi-equate nila, gidemonize nila. But she is a very powerful goddess sa ato ang myths. So muna, voyages, ocean voyages, maritime gud ni nga kanang culture ang sa Visayas, fights like monsters, Roman, reclaim og honor. It takes 3 days to finish chanting the whole Hinilawod. Yeah, di ra di ka na ang kanang wala ko ma-include diri sa presentation, I forgot. Pero dili ra ka na ang unsa tawag ani myth din sa Visayas. We have also the story of Kaptan og ni Magwayan. Familiar mo sa story ana? Si Kaptan is the kanang Mersiag, si bathala sa mga Tagalog nga highest nga god, sky god. Si Magwayan ang kanang the goddess sa kanang the far seas. Nya nanislay anak si Lihangin nga anak ni Kaptan, nya si Lidagat anak ni Magwayan. Nya pina Romeo and Juliet sila nga di mo pwede magkanang katuluyan ana. So gipagbawawal sila pero nagkainlabay man gid sila. Nya naa sila upat ka anak, si Likalibutan, si Liadlaw, si Libulan og si Lisuga. So karon pag eventually these 4 siblings grew up, sili kalibutan became boastful. Kana silang kaptan na kitay mo overthrow, murag pinatitans og silang Zeus ba. Kitay overthrow na nila. So niadto sila dito si Likalibutan, si Liadlaw og si Likalibutan, Liadlaw, Libulan. Pero si Lisuga ay lang youngest, wa nila pahibaw. So nangadto ang 3 ka brothers, but upon reaching the gates of kanang kahilwayan, Captain smote them, threw lightning bolts at them, and shattered them. So si Likalibutan crumbled and became the islands. Unya, si Liadlaw turned into a ball of shining kana energy which became the sun. Unya, si Libulan became the moon. And nya karon si Lisuga kay asa naman to ako mga kuya. Nisunod siya, nisunod. Wa man kay baw si Captain, nga wa di kay baw si Lisuga. Ay idigi tirahan po siya lightning bolt, bungkag si Lisuga. Nya innocent man siya. So nasakitan si Captain, gisultihan si Magwayan nga, "Oy, innocent ba yan na imong apo niya, imong giapil?" So ilang gibuhat, iyang gi-honor si Lisuga, ang ihang shattered remains gihimong stars. So mo na siya si Lisuga. Eventually mato sa crumbled remains ni Likalibutan kay dito ni grow ang bamboo, ni gawa si Sikabay og si Kalak, the first man and woman. So kana nay mga kuan sa Visayas ay. Sige, next. Aray ta sa Darangin sa dool na kita sa Mindanao. The grand narratives of Prince Bantugan. Nya kani si Prince Bantugan kay daghan kanang dali kini si hingibog ni si Prince Bantugan nya daghan kini siya kanang ganahan nga pangasawon, pero kaning iyang kuya nga seeking madali kay murag di man ko impressed ayaw di na siya pwede para ni na. So it became a story of honor, of kanang mga cosmic forces na mga valor, courtly etiquette. So taas po kay ni siya 72,000 lines of verse ang narrate ani nga epic. So tag-as kini nga mga epiko. So we have all these epics in our islands. We were just colonized, so we have begun to, but it's not forgotten. There are so many people still nga nagkanang kuan ani nila, chant ani nila. But most of us Filipinos do not know our own epics na gyud, and which is sad. That's why I will be proposing something else. Sige. Modern epics. Di ba ganina naay mga past nga ancient kay nga epics nya naay sa mga media nato today nga gi-consume, naay bag-o nga mga katugbang. Why don't we do that also? Let's create our own modern epics. Let's write epic stories and make our own myths that reflect our generation, reflect the zeitgeist, reflect what we are here in our times. Sige, next. Ang kaning Soromawa, gisuwat ni nako siya pag pandemic. Nya, ang kaning sa atubangan ang libro. So ang Soromawa, di ba, familiar man mo Bakunawa? Dragon Bakunawa. Ang Bakunawa mukaw no buwan, ang Soromawa mukaw no gingharian. So kaning Soromawa gipadala ni siya sa mga diwata nila sa Balmaya kay kamo mo'y nakaingon nga na imbalance ng environment sa kalibutan, ipadala ning Soromawa para hotdon puuho na ginmutanan once and for all. But the anarcha warriors nga mo prove gyud sila nga we deserve to live too. So ilang gi-defend, ilang gingharian. That is the epic scale of the story. But sulod sa story, it's really the story about free will, about destiny. Kay si Ardalian kanang permi siya mamatyan og kanang mga servants, niya murag feeling niya nga siya mo'y bane sa ilang existence, na depress siya, yang ginikanan namatay niya sad. So he grew up knowing death all around him. And here comes Marabi, a very young and innocent nga murag squire man ni nila ang ilang mga ulipon dito sa Balmaya. Nya si Marabi kay wa siya choice, kay pobre man kay sila nga pamilya, so he needed to go into service to a kanang murag higher nga lord or kanang warrior like Ardalian to save his family from being poor. So kana unsa man gyud na siya choice or wala. Kay tungod, pobre mo kasi the situation is pushing him to stuff he does not really want. Pero there are stuff po nga he does, nga siya ra po ni Kwan. Eventually, in the end, ay mang-spoil na ko sa book. Palit na lang mo sa libro para di mo ma-spoil. Sige, next. Kaning sugilamat sa balmaya. Ang sugilamat mo ni akong mugna ra po na nako nga term sa high fantasy. Sugilanon o kanang lamat kanang gilamat ka ba? Phantasms. Gilamat gimino ana mo similar. So 13 siya ka short stories ay katong Soromawa kay novel man to siya. Short novel to siya. Ang kaning Sugilamat sa Balmaya, 13 ni siya ka short stories. Set gyapon siya sa Balmaya nya. Different timelines, different nga locations. Nya nanadiha ang mga nakadaog na kong awards. So pwede sa na ninyo basahon para magets ni namoy makuha nga mga unsay tawag ani. Nindot nga mga pagtulunan tingali or strategy nga makita ninyo sa akong style sa pagmugnag epic. Probably niya magkamugnasan mo inyong own epics. Contribute sa atong bagong epics no kay bag-o na baya ang atong generation. Next. Sige. So, in the end, unsa man gi pulos aning tanan akong gipang-ingon. So kana balik ta atong symbols, mythology. How do we use mythology to understand our reality? We cross primordial seas and labyrinths when we're undergoing life changes. When we're going through psychological stress to escape. So we seek world trees and sacred mountains to find greater meaning. Kaya sometimes life becomes too dark and we don't know where we're going. We wear the shoes of Frodo, Prince Arjuna, Elsa, or Bantugan in doubt or when duty calls. So many characters in mythology kay musamin, they're like mirrors to us. If we write, if we draw, if we play, and if we tell stories, that is us participating in myth making. So let's create new myths. Yeah, from old to new myths, there is a continuous thread of human imagination. Wa gyud na mabuak. Continuous thread of human imagination nga gisige nag-recycle. Then we must ensure that our local experiences take their place in history too. You have, ang atong experiences diri sa atong nasod is very niche, is very specific. So it is our responsibility to record this, mythologize this, para ma-immortalize siya. Sige, I think next, murag last na dayon nga ko. What will your myth be? Daghan kayong salamat, mga higala.
All right, thank you very much. Our appreciation to our first speaker, Sir John Dante, for that enriching and very insightful discussion. So we will continue. We will now go to our next discussion. But before that, we have morning refreshments prepared for everyone. Okay. Igutom na mo. Okay, so yeah, we have morning refreshments available outside. So we'll have a very quick break for snacks and perhaps for bathroom break as well. Now, we will resume our conversation by 10. Okay, and also just a reminder for our friends, no eating inside the auditorium. So we are encouraging everyone to go outside and perhaps grab some snacks and later on reconnect and rekindle with friends from other institutions. Now, before you continue, okay, one last plug. Our resource persons are bringing with them copies of their books. So we have John Dante bringing his copy Surimawa. Okay, so Surimawa ni John. Okay, so we have copies here available. So if you'd like to grab a copy of the book Surimawa and Sugilamat sa Balmaya, you may approach the author himself, who's over here. And if you want to have your book signed, you may also ask, or you may also interact with our author. That would be after all the conversations and after the open forum later. Okay, so we will dedicate time for that. Also, we have Sir Ian Rosales Casocot over here selling. Do we have books? Okay, from Libraria. So we have Libraria outside station. So if you want to grab a copy of his books, Last Days of Magic, and other books, okay? Last Days of Magic and The Gentlest City Imagine, you may grab a copy of that book. Also, other books from Libraria are available outside, okay? So you may get a chance to interact and have your books signed by the authors after our program this morning, okay? So with that, you may now proceed outside for a very quick morning refreshments, and we'll resume at 10 o'clock. Thank you. A photo opportunity po, ma'am? Picture. Oh, yes. So while everyone is having their snacks, maybe we can ask we'll have one quick photo opportunity with our friends from the College of Education, the Department of English and Literature, and from our resource persons, Sir John Dante and Professor Ian Rosales Casocot. So may we invite you all to please come here on stage for a very quick photo opportunity. Thank you. I'm also requesting our faculty members from the College of Education. Do we have Dr. Jasper Catan, Assistant Professor Dube, and also Ms. Rika, our faculty from the senior high school, kindly join us here for a very quick photo opportunity. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Rick, please join us here. Ms. Rika, Ms. Casey, Ms. Jem, Sir Ian, can you please join us for a very quick photo opportunity po? All right, so may I request all our participants to head back to return to the auditorium, to the audiovisual theater as we continue our discussion this morning. Ano na? All right, thank you very much for coming back, okay, and for staying. Okay, once again, welcome to this special conversation on mythology, folklore, and adolescent and children's literature. And now we are moving to another discussion. This time, we'll be talking about adolescent and children's literature. And we are honored and grateful to have with us one esteemed speaker who will share about our stories for children and stories for ourselves. So friends, help me welcome resident panelist of the Silliman University National Writers Workshop and Professor for Creative Writing and Literature, Assistant Professor Ian Rosales Casocon.
Hello, everyone. Before I begin, I would like to ask for your indulgence. I actually have a fever right now. Okay, so I had cold starting Friday yesterday, which was my birthday. It turned into a cough, and thank you so much. I actually spent my entire birthday in bed, which is not something I would wish for everyone. So I just would beg for your indulgence, because I'm actually very delirious right now, but I cannot miss this particular lecture because I made a promise, and a promise is something that you have to keep for your friends, okay? Which is something we also learn in children's literature, actually. So, muna guys, pasensya lang kay gihilantan jud ko karon. But I really would like to share to you, how to teach, how to approach children's and adolescent literature, particularly 21st century. And my specific title actually, nasayop akong title din sa akong slide, but actually the original title there sa akong poster is Stories for Children, Stories for Ourselves, which is essentially the same thing, okay? So that is my lecture today, all about children's literature. And just to begin, I just would like to give you some of my bona fides, just in case some of you are questioning why am I trying to talk about children's literature today with you. The thing is, well, these are some of the things that I have achieved so far in terms of children's literature. I was the grand prize winner for a children's book titled Rosario and the Stories for the Philippine Board of Books for Young Readers and the Salanga Writers Prize in 2005. I also won third prize for the Palanca for the short story The Last Days of Magic, which is actually part of this particular book, which is for sale outside. Okay, and I also won second prize for children's poetry. I actually do children's poetry as well. For Bisaya, for all that we gugma, for the Palanca also in 2023. And in 2023, I also published this particular picture book, published by Pinspired Philippines. And I will talk more about this book later on. So these are just some of the things I have done in the name of children's literature. And I think that is the reason why I have been invited to give you this particular talk today. And another reason is probably this. I actually teach the workshop for children's writing in Silliman University. And these are some of the books that my students have done over the years. And they are fantastic books, and I'm always happy every time my students come up with something lovely to read, which is really geared towards children, okay? So that is why we are here today. And when I actually read the letter that was sent to me, inviting me to this particular forum, I was astonished by the range of discussion that I am supposed to undertake for this particular lecture. Like what, for 1 hour? Mura man 1 semester. Like for example, why do stories matter in the lives of children and adolescents? Okay, fine. Okay. Number 2, what stories should we choose, preserve, adapt, and teach alongside contemporary challenges such as cultural and historical revisionism or teaching classical literature to digital native and AI-dependent learners? Okay. And then third, how can future teachers use stories to develop literacy, critical thinking, empathy, and cultural identity while remaining mindful of cultural appropriation and responsible representation? Like what? So these were the things that was supposed to be my lecture today. From the organizers, I was like, time's up, burag. Usang man ka semester of talk that I have to do for you guys. And for the most part, I also kind of thought of these particular questions thinking, a lot of these are actually kind of self-explanatory. And like, you know the answers to these questions, right? Like, why do stories matter in the lives of children and adolescents? Because they do. And that's why you're here. And the similar things with the rest of the questions that was given to me. So I was thinking maybe I would just try to elucidate the things behind these particular questions and give you particular answers so that you will understand the resonance of these particular questions. So that is my approach that I am going to give my lecture today. But I added one particular thing, number 4. I really wanted to do this. How do we use children's stories to know more about ourselves? Because this is really the way I teach children's writing in my workshop classes. I really want my students in their writing children's literature to get to know themselves better. Hence the title that I have given this particular lecture. So number 4 is the one for me. 1 to 3 is the questions given to me by the organizers, which really, really made me think, okay? So these are the coverage for my talk today. Are you ready? Okay. So, but I would like to begin actually not by going to 1, 2, 3, 4, but actually reading to you the first children's story that I have ever written in my entire life. Are you okay with that? Okay. This is something that I wrote in college for my own workshop for children's class. Estudyante pa ko. And my teacher was Eva Rose Ripolio. She's back actually in the Philippines now. And she made us write children's stories for that particular class. And the one story that for some reason I chose to tell is a story titled The Different Rabbit. Okay? So I am going to read to you the first children's story that I have ever written in my entire life, The Different Rabbit. So let's begin. Once there was a rabbit named Sebastian who lived in a forest not unlike the one you know. It was a small forest, a patch of green they called normal acres. And in it, the days passed by as slow days did. They passed by sleepily and uneventfully, and nothing much was different really. All days were the same. Except that today, Sebastian felt very different. He was just sitting by the pond as usual with George the squirrel, grooming their whiskers, laughing and looking for pixies. And then suddenly Sebastian felt very different. I feel different, Sebastian said. His pink nose twitched and he wagged his furry tail. And then Sebastian hurried home, leaving George puzzled by the pond. I feel different, Sebastian told Mama Rabbit. But of course you do, dear, said Mama Rabbit, who was not really listening as she was very busy thinking of the supper she still had to make before Papa Rabbit came home. Papa Rabbit would be home soon from the field, tired, and Mama Rabbit had yet to put the carrot cake in the oven. Of course you do, she told Sebastian. You have a nice new blue shirt on. Oh, you look so grown up now, like a big boy rabbit. No, Mama, said Sebastian. It's not the blue shirt, although I do like the color very much. Do you think it is color coordinated with my pink nose and all? Oh, well, Sebastian, a nose is a nose and a shirt is a shirt, said Mama Rabbit, who believed firmly in labeling. There's not much difference in the whole world when it comes to noses and shirts. But Mama Rabbit paused. Then again, your Uncle Mandy has a white nose and loves to wear a velvet tutu, but he's a queer albino rabbit anyway, so what am I saying? And Mama Rabbit giggled and went on to make her carrot cake. But I feel different, Sebastian insisted, and his pink nose became even pinker. And Mama Rabbit replied, maybe you should go outside and play with the other rabbits. You're no different from the rest of them. A little sun should straighten you out. So Sebastian went outside to play and maybe to find out what was it that made him feel different. Is it really the shirt? He asked himself. No, it was not. Is it the sunny day? He asked himself. No, it was not. Is it the flowers and the trees and the grass that blanket the hills? No, they were not. Finally, Sebastian told himself, I know what is different, and it is not the shirt, nor the sunny day, nor the flowers and the trees and the grass. I feel different because I am different. The thought made him sad because he felt he was very different and nobody else in normal acres felt the same as he did. Suddenly, a little voice like a wisp of air came out of nowhere. Why the sad-faced little Sebastian? Sebastian wheeled around but could not find anyone. Who's there? Sebastian asked, trying to be brave, lowering his voice. Are you my fairy godmother come to teach me my lesson in life? Hey, kid, the little voice said. The animals may be talking in this story, but this is no fairy tale. Although I've been called a fairy all my life, so you may have a point there. From somewhere, a butterfly flitted atop Sebastian's pink nose. Oh, hello there, Mr. Butterfly, said Sebastian. Brightened briefly and then became sad once more. It's just that today I feel very different. And mayhaps you are, said the butterfly. I am, said Sebastian in a surprise. Oh, yes, look at me. Don't you remember my voice? Asked the butterfly. You're a butterfly, began Sebastian. Yes, said the butterfly. But I know your voice, said Sebastian. It's Marvin, cried the butterfly. Sebastian looked at the butterfly in surprise. Marvin? But Marvin's an ugly little caterpillar. Great, you had to remind me of past cosmetic mistakes. Thank you very much, said Marvin the butterfly. It harumphed but then said gaily, but look at me now. You're right, said Sebastian, surprised. You are a beautiful butterfly. You have the colors of the rainbow on your wings. What happened, Marvin? And Marvin the butterfly said, let's just say I came out. Came out? Asked Sebastian. Of the cocoon, answered Marvin the butterfly. What's that? Oh, it's a dark, forbidding place. I won't wish it for you, although I know a lot of animals who are in it. It's a place full of secrets, which is only good for a very long sleep. But that's a long, long story, said Marvin the butterfly. Let me go back to my first question. Why do you look sad, Sebastian? Because I feel different, said Sebastian. Oh, I used to feel different too, and now I am a butterfly, said Marvin. Oh, well, Sebastian sighed. You should try to open your eyes more, Marvin the butterfly said. But what for? Asked Sebastian. Then maybe you'll see that in life, nobody's really different, only temporarily lost. And what you feel as difference is just your heart tugging for you to look that bunny right under your nose is just as different as you are, Marvin said. What do you mean? This is difficult to explain, Marvin said. See with your heart, Sebastian, see with your heart. Bye-bye now. I still have 1,000 flowers to visit. With that, Marvin the butterfly flitted away, the rainbow on his wings catching the sunlight as he flew deeper into the forest. And so it went that Sebastian found himself alone again. With a knowing smile, he hopped on and on and on. Soon he came by a strawberry patch. Where are you going, Sebastian? It was Tabitha the rabbit. She had a new bow around her fluffy ears, and she was giggling. Hello, Tabitha Rabbit, said Sebastian. I'm off to the deeper part of the forest where I might chance upon different rabbits like me. Oh, but perhaps you can stay for a while. The sun hides his face from this shade, and I have some strawberries to cool you off, said Tabitha. Tabitha Rabbit held out a red strawberry on her paw, beckoning Sebastian into the comforts of her shade and grass. Her fluffy ears wriggled, her lashes lowered, and her red lips curled into a sweet smile. The strawberry on her paw looked delicious. But I feel different today, Tabitha. Perhaps another day, said Sebastian. And off Sebastian hopped to the deeper part of the forest where he might chance upon different rabbits. Soon he came upon a clearing. Suddenly Sebastian heard a loud crack like the sound of a slingshot. With a swoosh, a pebble flew from a nearby bush and cracked into an old tin can sitting on a rock. The can went swoosh and clank and flew into the air and bounced off a tree trunk. Hey, Sebastian, get off that spot, will ya? You might get hurt. It was Tom the rabbit. Hello, Tom, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just passing the day away shooting at tin cans. Where are you headed? Tom the rabbit asked. I'm off to the deeper part of the forest where I might chance upon different rabbits, Sebastian said. Oh, that's nice. Kind of queer, though. Different rabbits? What are those? Do they have different tails? Tom asked. I'm not so sure, but somebody told me to see with my heart, Sebastian said. All right, say, you want to join me? It's fun and all. We could fashion you a nice slingshot and you'd be shooting cans in no time, Tom said. He held out a slingshot and pointed the can at the foot of a tree. The can looked too far away. I feel different today, Tom. Perhaps another day, said Sebastian. And off Sebastian hopped to the deeper part of the forest where he might chance upon different rabbits. He hopped on, and soon became thirsty from all the hopping. He chanced upon a small brook and gingerly took a sip from the clear water. Sebastian decided to rest. He hopped to the nearest tree and plopped on the soft grass. It felt cool and comfortable, so he started thumping his hind leg with pleasure. Oh, dearie, cried a voice from atop the tree. You there, honey, below me? It was a parrot. Hello there, Mr. Parrot. Can I do something for you? Yes, dear, and it's Tallulah to you, Tallulah. Nobody has called me Mister since I got myself this fine feathered boa. Maybe you can tone down the thumping a bit? I have to have my beauty sleep, dearie. Tonight I have to party. Tallulah the parrot said. I'm so sorry, Tallulah. I was just resting for a while and found the grass so comfortable. I thump when I'm happy, said Sebastian. Well, good for you, but I have to rest now, okay? I can't possibly miss tonight's party. Okay, said Sebastian. I should be hopping on soon though. I'm off to the deeper part of the forest where I might chance upon different rabbits. Honey, we're all different, said Tallulah. By the way, you look like you need a little bit of cheering up. Maybe you want to go with me to the party tonight? What's that? Oh, just another fabulous get-together with the girls. Birds of the same feather flock together, you know. We'll have disco dancing and beautiful clothes. Well, I feel different today, Tallulah. Perhaps another day, said Sebastian. Well, suit yourself, said Tallulah. Goodbye, dearie, and I hope you'll find your different rabbits. Goodbye, said Sebastian. And off Sebastian hopped to the deeper part of the forest where he might chance upon different rabbits. He hopped, and hey, watch it, Buster, said a tiny voice, just directly underneath a fallen leaf. Oh, I'm sorry, did I hurt you? Sebastian wriggled his pink nose at the leaf to reveal a green worm. It was a very ugly worm. You almost stepped on me with all your hopping, snapped the little worm. I was just hopping off to the deeper part of the forest where I might chance upon different rabbits, said Sebastian. I did not see you, Mr. Worm, and I am sorry. That's Mr. Jeb Worm to you, the worm snapped again. I'm sorry, Mr. Jeb Worm. I shall try to be more careful next time. Bah, the worm snapped. You're looking for different rabbits, you say? Yes, Sebastian replied softly and hopefully. Well, I will tell you a thing or two about different rabbits, snarled the little worm. Different rabbits should not be different. Different rabbits, and with a swoosh, Mr. Jeb Worm was gone in a flurry of color and feathers. Mr. Jeb Worm, cried Sebastian. Yum, delicious. It was Tallulah the parrot, and it was sitting on a nearby tree branch burping. What was it they said about the early bird getting the early worm? Totally untrue. Now I'm ready for the party. But you just, stammered Sebastian. Honey, in this world, nobody should tell you what you should be. Tallulah the parrot said, your difference is what makes who you are. Now, ta-ta, I have to find my boa feathers. I think I lost it in the scuffle. Oh, goodness gracious, I've been in a scuffle. My feathers, Tallulah's squawk faded as he flew away. So Sebastian hopped on to the deeper part of the forest where he might chance upon different rabbits. It was nearly the end of the afternoon, and the hop was long and tiring. Sebastian knew the deeper part of the forest was just a few hops away, just around the bend, beyond the hollow tree trunk almost hidden in the tall grass, and then into the pond where the cautious deer and the shy bears went to drink. He hopped and he hopped, and he hopped over the tree trunk. Sebastian wriggled through the tall grass and made his way to the pond. When he got to the pond, he stopped in surprise. George, what are you doing here? Sebastian wondered aloud, amazed to find his squirrel friend sitting by the pond. Well, I suddenly felt very different, said George the squirrel. Sebastian laughed, and George began laughing too. George and Sebastian splashed into the pond and hopped back again into the dry grass, and they were still laughing. From that day on, Sebastian no longer felt too different, and he and his friend George lived happily ever after. Even that night when Papa Rabbit came home and told Mama Rabbit that he felt different. I feel different, said Papa Rabbit. Of course you do, dear. You've got a fever, said Mama Rabbit. The end. Okay. Guys, what do you think the story is about? To be honest. Huh? The rabbit is obviously gay. Okay? And I actually wrote this when I was in college and was still kind of questioning things about myself. Okay? And I was like, oh, someone go. So I kind of used the genre of children's literature to explore who I was. Okay? And eventually, this story was actually published in Lad Lad 3. Okay? And also included in my children's book, The Boy, the Girl, the Rat, the Rabbit, and the Last Magic Days. So this is one example of what I will be trying to tell you in the next few slides, okay? Children's writing is something that we can teach children, but it is also something that we can also use to explore more about ourselves, whether in the stories that we write or in the stories that we read, okay? So that's basically my thesis for our talk today, okay? But to think more about the story, why does this story matter in the lives of children and adults? I don't know. Maybe it mattered to me when I wrote it. I felt the need to express myself in terms of children's literature. Should this be preserved, adapted, and taught? Well, it's preserved in volume 3 of Lad Lad, and it has been taught in several schools in Manila. Can future teachers use this story to develop literacy and blah, blah, blah? Yes, of course, they can if they choose to. But number 4, most of all, how do I use a genre of children's stories to know myself more? And I think you know the answer to that, which I already gave you. I basically wrote this to explore my own questions about my own gender, about my own sexuality. And I had fun doing it. But actually, I also learned later on, actually in children's literature, guys, you shouldn't use animals to explore human frailties and human needs. Use human beings. That will actually be a better way of exploring all of these questions rather than using animals, unless you are doing fables, okay? So let's go to the first question muna. Why do stories matter in the lives of children and adolescents? And the thing is, guys, I think you know the answer to this, okay? And we know the answer to this by actually basically answering this particular question. Why teach children's literature? And we know that teaching children's literature is very, very important because these stories actually help children understand themselves more and the world around them as well. And the example that I can give you right now is this wonderful book. Have you read Charlotte's Web by E.B. White? If you haven't read this particular book, it's a wonderful book about a pig named Wilbur and a spider named Charlotte and a little girl named Fern. And the pig is a little bit unsure about who he was in the world outside. And the spider tried to help him find his own identity. Okay? So this particular story, this particular book for children, written by E.B. White, helps children understand themselves with issues like friendship, loneliness, loyalty, fear, and loss, as well as other people, like how individuals have different needs and personalities and vulnerabilities, and also the world, how the world works particularly, especially the cycle of life, the fact of death, our responsibility in the world, and the value of compassion. So these are things you can actually teach your children, teach kids, okay, about what their place is in the world. This is one way we can answer this particular question. Another way is to actually explore this. Stories develop imagination, language, and emotional awareness. And for you here who are readers, I think you are very, very familiar with this particular answer. Diba? You basically explore the world first as an armchair adventurer. You open a book when you were a kid and you explore the world around you without leaving the house. And one particular book that I really would like to give to you as an example is Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland. okay, which was made into a Disney movie later on. But I do hope you are able to read this particular book because it's a wonderful book because it actually really develops the children's imagination. How? Alice enters an absurd world where logic, scale, time, and identity constantly change. So you have to follow along with the imagination of Lewis Carroll as you follow the story. And it also expands the language of children. Why? Because Lewis Carroll uses riddles, wordplay, puns, nonsense verse, and playful distortions full of meaning. So if you follow along the prose of Lewis Carroll, you will learn more about vocabulary building, basically. And also emotional awareness. Alice experiences confusion, frustration, curiosity, fear, and growing confidence as she navigates the very, very weird Wonderland, okay? So this particular book actually tries to develop all of these things: imagination, language, and emotional awareness. Another way we can explore this is this. Stories introduce children to people, especially people of different cultures and experiences different from their own, which is very, very important. For example, when I began reading Frances Hodgson Burnet's The Secret Garden when I guess I was grade 6, okay? That was the first time I was able to understand what was British India, what was life in Britain, what was life like in a British castle, and so on and so forth. It's essentially the life story of a girl who was very, very different from me. Somebody who has a completely different life, and I had to empathize with her because I was encountering a story that was very, very different from my own. Okay, so that was the challenge that The Secret Garden gave to me. Okay, so it actually opens your mind's vista to other people, to other cultures, and other experiences. Another way we can explore this, especially for adolescents, is that these stories can become spaces for identity, questioning, and self-discovery. And these are issues that are very, very important for teenagers. Who am I? That's the one question many teenagers start asking around the age of 13 until 19, actually. So if you have stories like this, they will actually help these teenagers navigate their lives more. Like the best book that I have ever read that is kind of tackling this particular example is actually Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. In this particular book, we meet the character of Anne as she struggles to understand who she is while forming an identity independent of others' expectations. Her imagination leads her to challenge conventional ideas about proper behavior, femininity, education, and belonging. And her relationships, her mistakes particularly, she makes so many mistakes in the book. Okay? And her friendships and her education help her gradually mature and understand herself, which really sounds like what most teenagers, adolescents go through life, diba? So when they encounter stories like this, they will understand themselves more. Okay? So one particular, if we have to summarize all the slides so far, this is what I would like to give you. Children's literature is not merely entertainment, although we are entertained by children's literature, especially the best of them. Okay? For me, it is always part of how young people learn to make meaning. And I'm glad that I kind of had this particular childhood where I was reading a lot of books, because those books that I read when I was growing up really made me start making sense of my world. Okay? So, in the next slide, I would like to show you a picture of me. That's me in Valencia reading a book, my own book actually, The Great Little Hunter, to a bunch of kids in Valencia. Valencia has this great literacy program called Valencia Book Mobile, and I'm one of their volunteer readers. I do this like every 3 months or so for 2 Saturdays. I'm actually about to do this next Saturday, actually. So Valencia has this particular program for literacy among their kids. So what Valencia does is actually they identify specific barangays, and then for several Saturdays they would ask kids from that particular barangay to go to one particular venue where somebody would read to them various children's books. Okay, reading it in an animated way, so that we don't just teach these children the stories, but actually how to also appreciate the words that is coming out of these particular books. So reading by demonstration. Okay, and one particular Saturday that I had that actually had so much fun was that when I was reading the book, the children was also reading along with me. And that was so much fun. Like, oh my God, kabalo sila mabasa. Oh my God, they're appreciating the story. So that particular enjoyment that I had reading books for children. Why am I showing this particular picture? Well, another reason why children's literature is very, very important for us is that stories actually build literacy. And this is very, very important for us today, especially given the fact that literacy levels right now are actually going down. There is a study that came out a few months ago that in Negros Oriental, kids in grade 10, only 53% have the literacy rate is 53%. Meaning to say, like, oh my God, daghang kay kids among the grade 10, dili kahibalong mubasa. And not just reading actually, they can't even read numbers either. Okay? That's a huge problem that we have today, which is actually a problem that we have right now. I'm the focal point for Dumaguete City of Literature, and I'm always telling myself, oh my God, City of Literature ta here in Dumaguete, but we have a lot of kids who don't know how to read. How can we be a City of Literature if we have kids who don't know how to read? Which is actually why I volunteer for the Valencia Book Mobile, hoping to kind of also foster the same program here in Dumaguete City. Because stories really build literacy. But then again, guys, not a lot of kids read these days. And you know what the problems are, okay? What do stories develop? They develop vocabulary. You know this. They develop comprehension of the words that they encounter. They develop fluency in the language that they encounter in the books. And of course, because of that, they develop their own communication sense. And of course, it develops their imagination and their creativity. And after a while, reading books like this will actually help them develop their own visual and media literacy, which is very uncommon today, even among adults. So we really need to start off with kids if we want to have adults who will have media and visual literacy. Okay? And the thing is, when you make children encounter really good children's books, the literary language in those books actually expose children to ways of expressing ideas beyond everyday speech, other ways of like expressing themselves. These books actually allow them to be able to do that. And also picture books, comics, films, and digital narratives also expand the meaning of reading. That's what you actually also teach them when you actually try to teach them children's literature. So one particular summary I can give you right now is this. Our teaching goal must be to move students from simply understanding words to interpreting meaning, which I will delve later on in one of my slides later. Okay? Okay, this is also very, very important. Why are stories for children essential for us? It is also because stories develop empathy and identity. Everybody knows this. This is, in fact, probably the first answer everybody will give when they are asked, why is reading essential? Because it kind of provides a way for people to be empathetic. Stories allow children to encounter perspectives beyond their own, which is very, very important, diba? Because for the most part, we live in our own world, and we think our own world is the only world there is. Okay? And you don't know the other people's, the perspectives of other people who have different lives. And you need to know those perspectives to become a fully functioning human being. Okay? You need to teach kids this. So they encounter various characters in children's stories which can help them explore these things like friendship and family, difference and belonging, conflict and injustice, fear, loss, and resilience. For example, Matt de la Peña's last Stop on Market Street is actually a story about a boy who goes to a market in his hometown with his Lola. And in this particular trip to the market, he keeps complaining about why doesn't he have any gadgets? Why doesn't he have a car? And the Lola keeps explaining why this and that by explaining this via the people they meet on the way to the market. Okay? So he learns to kind of value his own life compared to the other people they meet on the way to the market. And The Name Jar by Yang Suk Choi is about a Korean girl newly transferred to the United States and trying her best to kind of mix with the other kids in the classroom. Okay? So this particular kid, who is of a totally different race, trying to mix with other kids of a totally different race as well. Okay, I don't know how to pronounce this particular family of this particular name. Ibtitaj Muhammad. The Proudest Blue is actually a very, very good book about how you should be proud about your own heritage. This is about a girl who going to school wearing a hijab. So this is a Muslim girl trying to own her own Muslim identity. And then Tiffany Hammond's A Day with No Words is about an autistic kid, the ones who don't really speak, okay? And trying to communicate with other people via tablets, okay? And then R.J. Palacios, We're All Wonders, is a very wonderful book about a kid with a deformed face and how he manages to kind of become still a well-rounded kid in a classroom, even though he keeps getting hounded by cruelty by other kids because he is so different. He is still trying to live a good life in this particular book. And I love this book, Brendan Wenzel's They Also a Cat, because this is about a book about this is a children's story about perspective. It's about a cat, but it's about the cat from the various points of view of other things, like the cat according to the mouse, the cat according to a cockroach, the cat according to whatever. So each of these creatures, totally different, have a totally different perspective of what a cat is all about. So this teaches you perspective, okay? So this develops empathy and identity, okay? Okay, another way is local stories can strengthen connections to language, community, and cultural identity, which is why I love children's books by Filipino authors, because it teaches me about myself as a Filipino, like May Tobias Papa's Araw sa Palengke. I think you know what this book is all about. They go to the palengke and then they identify all the vegetables and fruits that they find in the palengke according to the Filipino language. Okay? And then Randy Garlito's Chenelin. This is a fun children's book about one particular person in our household which we usually ignore. Do you know what that is? Do you know who that is? One particular persona in our household we usually ignore but is an important part of our household. The housemaid. Okay? So this is a children's book about a housemaid. And of course, children's books will also teach you your own language. Like, for example, Liana Romulo's My First Book of Tagalog Words. Okay? So if you are a Filipino and you are reading Filipino children's books, it keeps you in touch with your own culture, with your own community, with your own language. Okay? So another summary, reading, however, does not automatically create empathy. You know this, okay? We know a lot of very good readers who are actually not very, very empathetic at all. What is needed here to really earn empathy is discussion and reflection, okay? Which is why when we do the readings in Valencia, after my reading, we have to discuss the book with the children. What did they learn? What was the story all about? Because you can't just read the books to them without discussing the story with them, because for the most part, it will probably go over their head. You have to involve them in the reading so that they can explore the world more. So, but one thing that you should try to ask yourself, especially when you try to teach children's literature to kids, is this: whose experience does this story allow us to understand? And if you manage to answer this particular question, you are on the way to really becoming to really exploring empathy and trying to instill it with your kids. Okay? Okay. The second question that the organizer have asked me to actually explore is this: what stories should we choose, preserve, adapt, and teach alongside contemporary challenges such as cultural, historical revisionism, or teaching classical literature to digital native and AI-dependent learners? Okay. So I tried to answer this particular question by asking other questions as well. So for example, what stories should we teach? And then I chose to answer this first with this: literary quality, of course. This is the first criterion that you should check to really choose what kind of books you should teach your students. And in terms of literary quality, there are some markers where we can actually begin to do this. For example, if they have won some of the best children's book awards there is, for example, that's the Newbery Medal to the left, and that's the Caldecott Medal, second to the left. And these are actually medals given to the best books published in the Western world, particularly in the United States. In the Philippines, we have two award-giving bodies. We have the PBBY Salanga Prize, which I won in 2005, and of course, the Don Carlos Palanca Memorial Awards for Literature. Okay, so if a story has won any of these prizes, then you can probably be sure that these works are actually literary. Because you want to give your kids something that has been approved, something that is considered literary, right? Because truth to tell, guys, anybody can write children's books. I have read terrible children's books by people who just self-publish them because they think they can do whatever they want. And a lot of these books are really, really terrible. Sometimes it takes, authorities to really declare something worthwhile. And these are just some of the authorities who can do the work for you, okay? So literary quality should be one particular criterion you should check to kind of know what particular stories to teach your children. Another thing is that they should have some cultural and historical significance, okay? One particular book that I would always try to make others read is actually a children's book in Tagalog by Ogie Rivera titled Si Junjun noong bago ideklara ang batas militar, which is a very, very important book about, a children's book about something you don't usually encounter in a children's book, the martial law era in the Philippines. Did you ever think na book pwede nga mo explore anang idea? Yes. Some of the most difficult issues in the world have actually been explored in children's literature. So if you want something culturally significant, then choose books like this, okay? Or books with diverse perspectives. I love this one. This is another book by Ogie Rivera, the author of that previous book that I just showed you. This one is titled Silif. And I love Silif because this is the first Filipino children's book to tackle dyslexia. Felix, if you imong balihon, Silif, kung imong balihon, Felix. Okay? And it teaches kids how to actually read if you have dyslexia. Okay? So I love this book. I actually published this book in Sans and Coral a long time ago. Okay, so diverse perspectives, like the perspective of children with dyslexia. Or age-appropriate complexity. You have to realize this. Nga if you are catering to children, okay, you have to know what particular age they are because lahi-lahi man ilang reading level. So for example, if you are dealing with ages 1 to 3, something repetitive, with soothing language can actually be had. So for example, this particular book, which is also one of my favorites, Margaret Wise Brown's Goodnight Moon. Have you encountered this book? It's a very, very simple book about, it's a book that kind of illustrates a bedroom with all the things in the bedroom like a cat, a picture frame, a vase, and so on and so forth. And it's a very, very simple book. It just says, good night cat, good night vase, good night moon. Like you're just pointing to each particular object and then you're identifying this object with the child and then you are basically identifying these things with them and also pronouncing the words. And very, very simple. You're just saying good night to all the illustrations in the book. So for children age 1 to 3, this is something that you can do. But kung older na sila, then maybe you can do something like Arnold Lobos' Frog and Toad Are Friends. This is for ages 4 to 8. These are short, engaging chapters for early readers. Okay? And then for ages 8 to 12, maybe something with longer plots and simple chapter structures like Mary Pope Osborne's The Magic Treehouse, Dinosaurs Before Dark. So guys, if you actually take a look at some of the labels of children's books, there is an age specification good. Okay? And you also have to know that when you are writing for children, because you cannot write children's stories knowing you are supposed to write for 1 to 3 with a very, very sophisticated language. You cannot do that at all. So that's actually why children's writing is very, very hard to do sometimes. Okay? So age-appropriate complexity. And then there is representation beyond stereotypes. You need to know this, okay? So for example, this particular book by Nellie Thomas is a very good book that kind of tackles neurodivergence. For example, me, I have ADHD. I know people who are autistic. So this particular book actually helps people understand people with neurodivergence. And I love Johanna Ho's Eyes That Kiss in the Corners because this is actually a book about being Asian. Okay? And having Asian features, like especially if you're East Asian, singkit imong mata, you have this particular kind of skin, and so you have black hair, and so on and so forth. So this is not this is actually going beyond stereotypical because it is actually an actual Asian writing this particular story. So it comes from a very involved space, a very, very involved experience. Okay? And then there's also opportunities for critical discussion. If you're a teacher and you want to really convey something about an important issue in the world, you can do that through children's books. So for example, I love always using Dr. Seuss, the Lorax, because the Lorax, you know how Dr. Seuss books are like, right? But actually, if you read the Lorax, you have no idea that it is actually a book that will actually enable children to understand more about environmentalism. It is a book about environmentalism. Okay? And then The Giver by Louis Loyery is a book about examining conformity versus individuality and questions the cost of a perfect world. And then I love this one. Oliver Button is a sissy. From the title alone, right? This one is by Tommy Di Paola. It challenges traditional gender stereotypes and addressing bullying and social exclusion. So these are very, very issues that in the world. And you can actually tackle this using children's literature in a very simple way. Okay? So another summary. The general rule is this. Include a mixture of classics and contemporary literature, as well as local Philippine stories, and as well as global literature, so that you can have a more expansive collection of stories that you can share to your children. And also this one, do not ask, is this story good for children? Also ask, what kind of reader does this story help create? Okay, so what should we preserve then if we have to choose certain stories for teaching? Well, the thing is, children's literature can actually preserve so many things like oral traditions, folk tales and myths, regional languages, community histories, and cultural memory. So for example, this particular book by Gerald McDermott, Anansi the Spider, A Tale from the Ashanti, is actually a whole children's book adapting traditional West African trickster folklore. And John Dante actually talked about the trickster tales kanina in his lecture. Okay? And then we also have Ingri and Edgar Parin Dolaire's Book of Greek Myths. This is a very, very definitive, beautifully illustrated collection of stories about ancient Greek heroes, gods, and monsters. Okay? And we have another Filipino book here. Mia Borja Pagbakiran's Papateo is actually written in Ibanag, but with English translation, capturing the traditions and dialect of Tugigaraw City. And this is actually very, very important because in the Philippines, particularly guys, a lot of our children's books are actually written only in Filipino or English, and nothing much in the other languages, which is actually why I wrote my children's book, All That We Gugma, because I really wanted to explore Binisaya in our children's literature. Okay? And this one showcases Ibanag. And that's a language that's really worth preserving, even in our children's literature. Another title that I'm going to recommend is this one, Juana Martinez Neal's Alma and How She Got Her Name. This is about a young girl who learns about her family tree and the rich historical legacy tied to each of her ancestral names. Okay? Okay. Older texts, however, may contain racism, sexism, colonial assumptions, or other stereotypes, okay? But I don't want us to turn our backs against them because they're also very, very important. But you need to know this. Preserving a text does not mean endorsing everything that it says. For example, guys, if you are familiar with Nancy Drew, you're familiar with Nancy Drew, right? Did you read Nancy Drew as a kid? I did. When I was in grade school, my God, I read all the Hardy Boys, I read all the Bobbsey Twins, I read all the Nancy Drew. And actually later on found out that there are two versions of Nancy Drew sharing the same titles. For example, The Secret of the Old Clock, which is the first Nancy Drew mystery. If you actually take a look at the 1930 edition, the language is very, very different. The entire story is very, very different, and it's very racist. They had to clean up the entire language when they were republishing Nancy Drew in 1959. So if you grew up probably in, you probably had the new version, the Grosset and Dunlap version, which is actually very sanitized. But it is also interesting to actually read the older Nancy Drew books and then find out all of these racist terms which they actually had to exercise in the new version. Okay? So the classroom approach should always be this: to preserve, then to contextualize, and then to question. Never usually to like to turn away, because sometimes these difficult questions, these difficult texts that you encounter in the books can actually be a cause for discussion with your kids, okay? So this one, I'm going to just devote one particular slide to this, because for me, classical children's literature should not be ignored, but there is a way to actually try to like to try to make them more appealing to modern kids these days. Okay, so sometimes with old myths, for example, you can probably try to retell them in terms of like modern fantasy, like with what John Dante said kanina, like with Star Wars, and then connecting it with Oedipus or something like that. So the story of Oedipus with the story of Star Wars, something like that. Okay? Or the old epics which nobody really has any energy to read anymore, then you can connect them with superhero tales. Okay? Or with Shakespeare, maybe you try to make them understand Shakespeare more by making them watch the television, the films or television shows about it. With AI, however, I don't know. For me, AI is something that is, I don't know. I hate AI. Okay, I hate AI, but I think that in terms of like children's literature, I mean, what I like about children's literature is that you usually just read them aloud to kids at the same time, and you kinda get over them like in an hour or so. So you don't need to have them like go out of the class to try to summarize them using AI. So that's what I love about children's books, because you can just actually discuss them in class while reading them in class. So it saves you from all the problems of AI actually. Okay, and in my own children's writing workshop, guys, I actually asked them to write their stories right then and there in front of me. Okay, so there is no chance for them to use AI. Okay, but then again, I've tried writing AI. I tried using AI to write children's stories. They're usually so boring. Usually beginning with mountains or whatever, and then ending with seas. I don't know why. There is a certain formula for AI writing children's stories. So I don't think you can write good children's stories using AI at all. Okay? Okay. Another thing that we need to take note of is actually stories and historical memory, because children's literature can shape how young people understand the past. So this has something to do with stories that deal with history. Okay? So when you have stories that deal with history, you always have to ask yourself these very, very difficult questions. What version of history does this particular story present? What does it leave out? Whose perspective is privileged? Does another source tell the story differently? And for the most part, one particular example I can give you is actually this. Anne McGovern's If You Live in Colonial Times. When this was published in 1964, no such hubbub over how it was written. But today, when modern readers and critics are reading this particular story, medyo problematic na siya. Because when they read this book again, they're actually seeing it focuses mostly exclusively, in fact, on white Protestant New England settlers, and frames the primary danger to colonists as generalized threats from Indians or wolves, demonizing indigenous populations while ignoring their sovereignty and land dispossession. So this particular book is actually problematic today, not in 1964 when it was first published. Okay? So when you try to teach books like this, which are supposed to be historical, you always have to ask those questions I posed a while ago. And I tried to actually look for a Philippine equivalent, and for the most part, wala. That's actually one thing I'm kind of happy about Philippine literature. We don't have children's books that contain a lot of problematic history. Okay? But maybe it's also because our publishing here is fairly small compared to something like America, for example. Okay? But you always have to ask these questions when you have to teach history using children's books. Okay? Okay. So, next question. How can future teachers use stories to develop literacy, critical thinking, empathy, and cultural identity while remaining mindful of cultural appropriation and responsible representation? Wow. Okay. So I thought of like answering this particular question by this, okay? I need us to move students beyond what happened, okay? Usually teachers just settle on that particular question. What happened in the story? and actually start answering the following questions. In the story, who has power? In the story, whose voice do we hear? In the story, whose voice do you think is missing? In the story, what assumptions does it try to make? Okay? In the story, why does the character make this particular choice? How would the story change from another character's perspective? So if you try to get your students to ask these particular questions, you're actually on the way of developing critical thinking with them. Okay? And one way that I like to do this is I'm providing here some activities that you can do to actually foster these particular questions. But one particular thing that I like to do is actually this, perspective rewriting. Like you are presented with one story, and then you ask your students, if this particular story is written from the point of view of another character, how do you think this particular story will actually turn out like? And one particular example that I like is actually this. You are familiar with the Three Little Pigs, right? The Three Little Pigs. That's why I love this book. This book by John Sieska, because it tells the entire Three Little Pigs story from the point of view of the big bad wolf. And apparently, the big bad wolf is not so bad at all. When he blew the house, it was just nag-sneeze lang siya. Like what I'm doing. Like, I'm sick, so like, if I sneeze, I'm so sorry. So, ni-sneeze siya accidentally, naguba ang balay. And all he wanted actually is just for a cup of sugar. Muna nanukto siya, hey pig, can I have a cup of sugar? Hachu! Nakahachu man siya, so naguba ang balay. He did not mean it. He did not mean to scare away the pigs. So this is from the point of view of the big bad wolf. Perspective rewriting. Okay? So it's an exercise of critical thinking. Okay? But there's also the issue of representation and cultural appropriation. And actually for me, this can be solved if you just ask these particular questions. Okay? Who created the story? So for example, if the story is about Inuits and the author is a white American from New York, that might be problematic. It would be better if that Inuit story is written by an Inuit writer, right? So whose culture is being represented? If it's not your culture, then that can be problematic. But you can still write about it as long as it's respectful and not stereotypical. Because I don't actually want I don't want to ban anybody to write anything about other cultures. You can write about other cultures as long as you are respectful and not stereotypical. But another question to ask is also this: whose perspective is missing in the story you have read? And if you manage to answer that particular question, you might be able to distill all these matters about cultural appropriation. Okay? So for example, this particular book, this one, medyo canceled na niya a series of books by Judy Shakener. Okay? I Am Skippy John Jones. It's actually a series of books, okay? And it's about a Siamese cat, okay, who pretends to be a Mexican. Okay? A Mexican Chihuahua. A Siamese cat pretending to be a Mexican Chihuahua. Okay? Wearing a sombrero, shaking maracas, and speaking in broken stereotypical Spanglish. Problematic. Okay? But this is from the 1960s, so we can understand that. Okay? So medyo cancel na siya ng book series. So, yeah. Also, I love Dr. Seuss, but even Dr. Seuss can be problematic as well. So for example, kaning iyahang book from 1950 titled If I Ran the Zoo, it features cartoonish, deeply offensive caricatures of people from African and Asian cultures, depicting them with old colonial tropes and exaggerated physical features nga makabuang gyud, especially in the style of Dr. Seuss. Okay? So, in response to the outcry of readers after 1950, the publisher actually pulled out the book. So this book is no longer published today. Okay, kay stereotypical kay siya nga book. Okay? So the responsible practice of choosing text, if you consider those things, is this. You need to always provide historical and cultural context, include works by members of the represented community. So for example, if it's about blind people, let me talk blind person sulatan na. If it's by an autistic person, then let me talk autistic author ga sulat ana. If it's about an Indian, then let me talk Indian ga sulat ana, and so on and so forth. Avoid asking students to imitate cultures through stereotypes, especially during Halloween. Halloween is upcoming fast. Please do not appropriate costumes like mga kimono, mga Indian headdress. No! That's bawal na these days, okay? And you always have to treat cultures as living, diverse, and changing, okay? So, my summary for this is this. Representation should actually create understanding, not exoticism. So if you exotify that particular culture, you are not doing it any good at all, okay? So what about you, the teacher, as cultural mediator? You actually have a lot of power, guys, okay? I assume all of you are going to be future teachers, no? Okay? So future teachers decide all of these things. Which stories children encounter, which voices are remembered, how difficult or problematic texts are discussed, how literature connects with students' lives and cultures. So your ultimate goal is actually first, muna imong first job have to develop literacy first. Okay? So teaching children's literature so that your kids will love reading better, will understand the world better, and then when they do that, you're actually developing critical thinking with them. And when you are able to do that, you develop empathy and maybe, hopefully, form their own identity with them as part of their own particular culture. This is the ultimate goal that you need to do as teachers, teaching children's literature. The final principle is to teach children not only to love stories, but to also question these stories and also to understand them and imagine better stories for the world that they will inherit. But this part of my lecture, guys, is really all about trying to answer the demands of the organizers. I really would like to go to this particular part of my lecture. This is the last one. How do we use children's stories to know ourselves more? In my own Writing for Children's workshop, I have so many steps for them to undergo to actually write their children's stories, but I will only share with you the first step that I try to do with them. And I call this particular step as limbering up. Okay? In limbering up, we actually ask this overall question. What's a story or character from your childhood that stuck with you? Okay? And then when they try to answer that particular question, I give them other questions like this one. Okay, part one of 2 parts. So this is how I actually workshop my students. This is the first step that they need to do. They have to answer these questions. What were you like at age 5, at age 8, and then age 12? Did you change a lot between these 3 landmark ages? What did you want at these ages, at age 5, age 8, and then age 12? Did you want to fit in or did you want to be different from your peers? If you are one of several siblings, think about your relationships with them at age 5, then at age 8, then at age 12. Did you fit the stereotypical pattern in families? Eldest child is the leader, the responsible one. Second child is competitive and always trying to catch up to older siblings. Middle child is contrary, always complaining. Youngest child is the pet and is spoiled, but also often bullied and badgered. Number 4, if you are an only child, did you enjoy being the center of attention? Or did you want brothers and sisters? And if so, why? Number 5, what would you have liked to have been like rather than what you were? Would you have liked to have been good at games or clever or brave or more popular? And 6, would you have liked to have been an orphan so you didn't have parents who interfere? Did you want to run away from home? They have to ask these questions. And sometimes, in answering these questions, manghilak ko mga estudyante kaya they're remembering some past trauma actually. And then in part 2, I make them ask themselves these questions. Describe important events in childhood that are most memorable or have been vast repercussions on your life. Describe the important places in your childhood. Describe in specific ways the house you lived in as a child. Describe the people who loomed large in your life. Describe your childhood fears. Describe your favorite toys. Describe your childhood longings. Describe your favorite childhood food. Describe your childhood pets. So when they try to do that, so they make a list of all of these things, and then I mismatch these particular things, and I ask them to write a story from those things that we have chosen from this particular list. Okay? If I had more time, actually, I would have wanted to do this particular mini workshop with you, but wala man time, so kanila lang. I'm just showing you the list that I give my students, okay? And I'm going to show you one particular example. This is a former student of mine. Her name is Megan Villaruz. And when she answered all of those limbering questions, she remembered her childhood in a hacienda in Victoria City, in Negros Occidental. And remember that she had a brother, nga iya si binuangan, man sige sila gama og ketchup or something like that. And then she also remembers a maid from her childhood, and she remembers being left behind by the mother because the mother had to go to abroad or something like that. So she had all of these memories from her childhood, which was part of her limbering up questions. Okay? And from those particular things that she wrote down, she began writing this particular story. And I'm sharing that particular story with you right now. Okay? She wrote a story called The Great Ketchup Shortage. Okay? This is 479 words. So this is what she wrote. Mika woke up to the sound of her mother calling her. Mika, wake up. Eat your breakfast. Today is Monday and it was time to go to school. Downstairs at the table, there were 5 hot dogs because she loved hot dogs. That's also one thing. My favorite childhood food, hot dog, okay? Mika loved hot dogs because they are colored red, the same as her favorite things in the whole world, ketchup. Mika loved ketchup because it tasted like sour gummy bears. Sweet, tangy, and absolutely perfect. She clapped her hands in excitement. Yay, hot dogs! But something was missing. Mika looked around. There were bottles of condiments in front of her. There was yellow, there was brown, there was even white, but no red. Mika's heart sank. She blinked, hoping maybe, just maybe, the ketchup would magically appear. But no. She looked under the table, inside the refrigerator. She even looked behind her little brother's head. No ketchup. Mama, Mika asked, her eyes wide. Where's the ketchup? Her mom sighed. Mika, we ran out of ketchup. Eat your hot dog without it today. Mika froze. No ketchup on a Monday, a school day? This was worse than forgetting to do homework. She poked her hot dog with her fork. It looked sad. It looked lonely. It needed ketchup. Mika sat in class staring at the blackboard, but she wasn't really listening. The teacher was talking about numbers, but Mika's mind was on something way more important, ketchup. She tapped her pencil on her notebook. How do they make ketchup? She knew it came from tomatoes, but what else? Magic? A secret tomato potion? A ketchup fairy? She started drawing in her notebook. She giggled to herself. I could totally be a ketchup scientist. Mika? Uh-oh, the teacher was looking at her. Her classmates were staring too. Yes, ma'am, she said, sitting up straight. What's the answer to my question? Mika panicked. What was the question? She looked down at her notebook. The only thing written there was ketchup. She took a wild guess. Tomatoes? The whole class laughed. The teacher shook her head, smiling. We're talking about math, Mika, not ketchup. Mika was on a mission to make her own ketchup. When she went home, she mashed tomatoes in a bowl. Splat! Juice flew everywhere, even on her little brother Ben's forehead. Ah! Ben screamed. Mika giggled. Oops! Science is messy. She added sugar, salt, water, and a banana. Ben frowned. Banana? Secret ingredient, Mika declared. She stirred everything together and took a taste. This is not ketchup. It tastes like expired ketchup. Ben sniffed. It smells like mushy tomatoes and bananas. Their mom walked in and gasped at the mess. Mika, what are you doing? Mika sighed. Trying to make ketchup? Mika thought her mother would get mad. She counted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But instead, her mother smiled. Let's do it together now. Mika grinned. A real ketchup lesson? Best day ever. Okay? And that's the story that my student wrote based on her limbering up questions. Okay? Based on her memory, based on her experiences, she actually finished this particular story, which is actually what I want my students to do. Write a children's story for the child that you were. Okay? Because for the most part, I think a lot of us were deprived of children's books when we were children because sometimes they were expensive or something like that. So that's what I asked them to do. Write the children's story for who you were as a child. And usually they produce books like this. So essentially, this is my summary, okay? The inherent honesty of children is at the heart of writing children's stories. They allow us to look into ourselves and reveal what we hide, but done in the language of innocence and wonder and even forgiveness. So my last slide is this. I wrote this children's book in 2023, The Great Little Hunter. Why did I write this children's book? It's about a boy who encounters several monsters. His name is Ngayam, and he encounters several monsters of Philippine lower mythology, like a tikbalang, a kapre, and something else I can't remember right now, okay? But there are three monsters that he encounters. And in fighting these monsters, he actually did something else. He fought these monsters by befriending them. So by the end of the story, he has friends. And the way he actually kind of triumph over these monsters, but is actually by befriending them. So why did I write this particular story about Ngayam befriending these monsters who are supposed to eat him up, but actually became his friends? I wrote this because this was a pandemic project, okay? And in the pandemic, actually, in 2020, I stopped teaching because I could not deal with Zoom. Oh my God, my God. Remember in Zoom teaching, my God, all of you were like black walls. I was teaching, like I could not deal with teaching, so I stopped teaching. And when I stopped teaching, I actually told myself I will never go back to teaching again. Okay, so I was dealing with a lot of things during the pandemic. I was dealing with a lot of depression. I had no idea I had ADHD, so I was diagnosed during the pandemic as well. So I was actually encountering a lot of mental health issues when I was doing the pandemic. But then one thing I learned is that I can actually deal with these things by not demonizing my problems, but actually befriending them. For example, I have ADHD. I only found out when I was like 3 years ago that I had ADHD. And ADHD is there forever. And the only way I can deal with it is maybe by taking up meds, but also to kind of deal with it in particular ways. For example, when I do work, I have to body double, meaning to say, when I have to write something, I have to have a friend with me who can stay with me the entire time so that I can finish the work. So I become friends with my problems because by doing that, I'm helping myself better. And this is actually why I wrote this particular story. This is basically me, Ngayam, trying to deal with my mental health issues, but I told it in a story about a little boy confronting monsters and befriending them. So essentially, I wrote a children's story to know myself more, okay? And that ends my story. I hope I made sense. I have a fever, guys. Okay, so very, very delirious, but I'm trying to make sense. Anyway, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, let's give another round of applause to Professor Ian Rosales Casocot. And now I think all of our members of the audience are thrilled and excited to have a conversation with our esteemed members, our esteemed speakers rather. So to facilitate, we are preparing now chairs and perhaps maybe a bit of lights. Okay na siya? All right, sige. So may we request our guest speakers to please join us here on stage, John Dante and Sir Ian. We have 2 chairs prepared, and of course, this will be moderated by Assistant Professor Dube Estalio. Okay? So help me welcome Ma'am Dube.
Okay, good morning. Good morning to our audience. Good morning to Sir John and to Sir Ian. We are very privileged because we had the chance to listen to and actually learn from two of the most distinguished and very prolific authorities in the field of literature and atong mga very own Cebuano speaking literature writers. We are opening the floor now to your questions. However, we only could accommodate 2 questions. So whoever among you would like to be the first to ask the questions, please muster the courage, and there are microphones on either side of the auditorium of the AVT. We have our first question coming from, can you introduce yourself first?
Hello, everyone. I am Wilmar Martin Pimentel from COSCA. My question is for Sir Ian. Hello, sir.
Why me? I'm sick.
Just a background for my question. I'm actually a researcher under the Girls Congress about the CSE and SRGBV. So my question is quite leaning onto that notion. So the question is, what's your stance or thoughts about the possible use of literary pieces, particularly the children books, as avenue or ways to further promote or to further the awareness of the comprehensive sexuality education and school-related gender-based violence?
Okay. I'm actually hearing you like, okay, everything is a blur, but I'm trying to understand what you're trying to say. I think you're basically asking me, is it necessary, is it good for us to produce books that are geared towards the LGBTQ?
Yes, sir.
Okay, essentially that, right? Guys, I think it's very, very important for us to produce books like this. Like, for example, my children's story, the Different Rabbit, but I know so many other children's books that actually deal with gender, with sexuality, and I think they're very, very important, especially given the fact that the LGBTQ, for example, it's a minority that is suffering a lot. I think you are familiar with the fact that I don't know the specific statistics, but I know a lot of young LGBTQ people who actually commit suicide given one particular thing. They don't really understand what they're going through. Okay, they commit suicide because of the kids who are very, very young. They destroy themselves because they don't understand what they're going through. And then they go to school, they're getting bullied because for what people perceive them to be. So for me, producing books like this will only engender understanding about who they are so that they can actually live and be able to live like fruitful lives, understanding who they are. So for me, they are important. Producing books like this are very, very important because I want to save lives. Okay, I want books to be able to save lives.
Can I do a follow-up question?
Sure.
How about considering the age-appropriate complexity, sir? Like, is it okay to use literary pieces or the children books, especially in elementary, like the pupils?
Yes. So, but you have to select imagery and you have to select words that are appropriate for those particular kids. So, for example, you cannot use sophisticated or crass language when you know that particular book is actually geared towards, let's say, kids 7 to 8 or 1 to 4. No, you have to basically be able to write a story that that will be more general or more more expansive. That's geared towards those particular children. So yeah.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much from our representative from COSCA. So essentially, Sir Ian is saying, in response to the questions raised by our guest, that books about comprehensive sexuality may be produced or written about primarily for two reasons. If I am right, I gathered, number one, to help children understand their own sexual identity, and maybe number two, to help build empathy, diba? For the others who may not understand what these children are going through, to also understand them.
You can explore darker issues when you go to YA. Okay, because in YA, that's when you really, that's when you explore other things like beyond,
Yes, for children's literature, we have to be very age-appropriate and sensitive when it comes to language and to images. And then for young adult literature, that's when we can explore more mature themes, because these have to be age-appropriate, of course. Okay, thank you very much, Sir Ian. One last question from the group. We already have one, thank you. Kindly introduce yourself, Miss.
Good morning again, sirs and everyone. My name is J.M. Christine Garcia from Foundation University. And I would like to ask, as both of you are advocates for local and children and adolescents literature, respectively, how do you deal with student or people apathy towards literature in this day and age?
I don't think everybody is meant to read books, like be a reader. Okay, there are so many things, so many roads that we can like follow in life. But kutob sa kadtong mga inclined towards reading, okay, of course, I would really recommend to like grab a book and like pour yourself into it. But I would also recommend it to those not inclined to at least experience it once in your life. And maybe it might change your perspective on literature, on personal methods that you can use to better yourself, know things and discover things about yourself. And hopefully, in that way, you can expand your experience with the world and your own reality.
For the most part, I think this is a forum mostly for future teachers, no? Guys, you have so much power. It really lies in you to kind of propagate more readers in the future. For example, like when you used to teach Philippine literature in college, which is no longer there, okay? I like when I used to teach Philippine literature, I would have students who come to me telling me I don't really read anything, and if I do read, I don't read Philippine literature at all. But I do get a lot of responses after my classes wherein after they take my course in Philippine literature, I actually managed to make them read more Philippine literature. Like they come to me years later, sir, after your class, I began reading Dean Francis Alfar. I began reading the comic books that you asked me to read, the Wasted or whatever. So I like, oh, okay, they're actually taking it on themselves to read these works after my classes. So I have a feeling it's just because when I was teaching those particular readings in my Philippine literature class, I was always teaching them in a very enthusiastic way. Like I'm always excited about teaching May Day Eve, for example. I'm very, very animated, and I teach them about comic books, I teach them about movies, and so on and so forth. And the way that I probably teach Philippine literature in an animated way probably make them seeing, maybe this is interesting for me. And of course, the discussion that you do with these particular stories. That actually engendered a lot of readers for Philippine literature from my Philippine literature class. So you as teachers, you have a lot of power to do that. Try to make the discussion of these stories just a little bit more interesting. Be invested in them. Know everything about them so that you can share whatever nitty-gritties you can talk about these particular stories and poems. Because when you do that, when you teach with enthusiasm, you can actually foster a lot of readers in the future. In my own case, I don't know, like I had a very, very good grade 1 teacher. For some reason, when I was in grade 1, this particular teacher that I had, Mrs. Valencia, I still remember her name, Mrs. Valencia. She was so animated when she began reading this particular textbook titled, textbook that began with Henny Penny. Henny Penny was a hen. And I still remember that book, Henny Penny. Do you remember Henny Penny? Henny Penny. Henny Penny was a hen. The way she read it was so entertaining for me that even until now, I know the first lines of those particular book. And I actually remember getting that particular book in grade 1, going home, and reading it on my own. I don't know how I managed to read it, but I actually learned to read that particular book right then and there. Because I had a teacher who was very, very interesting when she was teaching me about Henny Penny. So that's your power as teachers, guys. Just make it interesting. Just be invested in the stories. And hopefully, we can engender more readers. Okay, that's what we're doing in Valencia right now. You know, with the reading, the thing that we had, we really had to be theatrical about it. We really had to go over the words with the kids because that's what makes it interesting for the kids. And hopefully that particular sense, that particular duty to words gets attached to them, and they will become better readers in the future.
Very well said. Thank you very much, Sir John and Sir Ian. So our takeaway from these two resource persons is, well, it is a given that not everyone is naturally inclined to reading, right? Not even among us educators. But it is also our responsibility, especially if you are a teacher in the grade school or if you're an English or Filipino major, you really have to be more invested in reading. Not only because the way you teach reflects whether you yourself love to read or not, but also because we have a responsibility. We have to create literate students, not just literate as in where it concerns reading comprehension, but culturally literate people. We need to become role models. Whether you believe that you are supposed to be role models or not, the fact that we are in the teaching profession, yes, we are expected to walk the talk. And before we can teach literature, we have to read ourselves. So if you haven't been doing it much yet, it's not yet too late, diba? Let us please read the kind of books that were presented to us by our resource persons, and just try to love literature more so we can teach our students better, and they will naturally get hooked to reading. And reading has a lot of benefits, not only academic, but of course we know in life, if you are a reader, it will open doors for you. So thank you very much, Sir John and Sir Ian.
Okay, thank you very much, Ma'am Dube. Beautifully said, okay, from Ma'am Dube. So at this point, we will now acknowledge and recognize the generosity of our resource persons today, okay, by sharing our heartfelt token of appreciation to our resource persons. So at this point, may I invite on stage the Dean of the College of Education, if she's still around, to please join us here. Also, we have the Chair of the Department of English and Literature, Dr. Joan C. Generoso, together with the Coordinator of the Edilberto and Edith Tiempo Creative Writing Center, Ms. Casey Milon, and one of the faculty from the College of Education Teacher Education Department, Assistant Professor Dube Estalio. And I think we also have Dr. Jasper Catan, is he around? Okay, to also join us here. So may I invite our faculty from the College of Education and from the Department of English and Literature, please join us here on stage. And allow me to read the citation of the certificate. And music, please, if not music. All right. So we are now presenting... Okay, yun na lamang. Okay, we are now presenting the certificate and token of appreciation to our resource persons today. So certificate of appreciation is proudly presented to Assistant Professor Ian Rosales Casocot for serving as guest speaker during the lecture series on mythology and folklore and children's and adolescent literature held on August 18, 2026 at the Audiovisual Theater, Silliman University, Dumaguete City. We commend Professor Casocot for sharing his expertise and meaningful insights that greatly enriched our students' learning experience, given this 18th day of August 2026 at Silliman University Audiovisual Theater. Signed by the Chairperson of the Teacher Education Department, Dr. Jasper Eric Catan, and the Dean of the College of Education, Dr. Gina Fontejon Punior. So, Sir Ian. Just like an award. Okay, and please pose for the camera, Sir Ian, and Hams. Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much, Sir Ian. And the same certificate goes to Sir John Dante. Okay, thank you very much, Sir John Dante, for you. Okay, also requesting the Dean of the College of Education to please join us here in awarding our certificate and token of appreciation. Okay. Once again, let's give another round of applause to Sir John Dante. Kindly move to the center, ma'am and sir. All right, thank you very much to Sir Ian and to Sir John, and to our esteemed member, faculty of Silliman University, daghan kayong salamat. All right, at this point, we will also like to express our heartfelt appreciation to everyone, okay? All our guests, members of the audience, for accepting our invitation to be with us here in celebrating the 125th founding anniversary of Silliman University through this gathering. So once I call your institution, kindly come here up on stage and to award. Okay, kindly prepare yourselves. Okay, retouch. All right. Okay, and kindly give your big smiles as you pose for the camera. And of course, to award the certificate of participation, may we also ask, yes, Sir Yan, may we also ask the members, may we ask the members of the English Club of the College of Education in Silliman and from the SUSG Silliman University Student Government Socio-Cultural Committee. Okay, if I'm not mistaken. All right. So shall we now proceed to the awarding of Certificate of Participation? So Certificate of Participation is proudly presented to this university, to this school, for your active participation and valuable engagement during the lecture series on mythology and folklore and children's and adolescent literature held on August 18, 2026 at the Audiovisual Theater, Silliman University, Dumaguete City. And our first university, or first school to come here up on stage with music, please. Foundation University. All right, may I request our students and faculty from Foundation University also acknowledging the presence of Sir C.J.B. Faustorilla. So kindly arrange yourselves, students. Please move to the middle. Maybe we can make 2 rows, right? So the first row for the vertically inclined. Pwede na. Okay, that's good. All right? And maybe a little, can you please move a little forward lang? Yeah, move forward. All right, that's good. Pwede pa siya. I think Sweden, you can't be seen there. Okay, so. All right, another round of applause to Foundation University. And you may now exit the stage. Now let's proceed to the next school. We are also grateful to our fellow Catalinans from Colegio de Santa Catalina de Alejandria. Together with the students from COSCA, is Dr. Carmi Banwa. Thank you very much, Doc, for accepting our invitation for joining us here. Let's smile for the camera. Okay, well, another round of applause to Colegio de Santa Catalina de Alejandria. Thank you very much, Dr. Banwa, for joining us this morning. Also, we are grateful to our fellow Polinians, okay? So may I request all students and faculty from St. Paul University, Dumaguete. Our fellow Polinians are accompanied by Sister Sammy Greg Managbanag. Mr. Sammy Greg Banagbanag. So thank you very much to Sir Sammy Greg Managbanag and our students from St. Paul University, Dumaguete. All right, kindly smile for the camera for one photo opportunity. And we are also grateful to the organizers, okay, and partners for making this event possible. So we'll just do this in one go. Would it be all right to the organizer? So may I request the following organizers and groups here in Silliman University to award their certificate of participation, starting off with the SUSG Socio-Cultural Committee. Also, our student leaders from the College of Education Student Organization. Okay, kindly stay there. Do we have representatives from the Silliman University Culture and Arts Council? All right. And of course, our friends from the Edelberto and Edith Yamba Creative Writing Center. Represented by the coordinator, Ms. Casey Melon. All right, thank you very much to our organizers and partners for making this event possible. And we are nearing the tail end of our conversation this morning. Yes, of course. I would be remiss, okay, if I will not call all our students from Silliman University, okay, of course, are very important members of the audience. So starting off with, can we start off with the College of Education, Teacher Education Department, together with their professors, Dr. Gina Fontejon Bonyor and Assistant Professor Dube Estalio. Please approach the stage as we recognize all our fellow Sillimanians. Thank you very much for joining us here. And of course, music, please. Do you have a music there? Sianga music. Okay, sorry. Yes. Yes po. Okay, sige. Yeah. After our students from the College of Education, we will also like to acknowledge our students from senior high school. Kindly fix yourself. I think you know the drill, students, so kindly make sure that everyone is... Hi, we have an exam on Thursday. All right, thank you very much, our students from the College of Education Teacher Education Department. I think this is our English major. These are our English majors, right? Thank you very much to all our English majors. Also, we are very grateful to our senior high school students, okay, for joining us here. So, students, please join us here on stage. And may we also request your teachers, your creative writing teachers. We have Miss Rika, Angela Taob, and Miss Casey Melon, together with the rest of the faculty of senior high school, represented by the assistant principal, Miss Jamela Tabio. Please join us here on stage, ma'am, and Sir Deo Marswasing. And yours truly as well. We are not yet ending, so may we request our students to please return to their seats, okay, as we officially close our gathering this morning. Thank you. All right, thank you very much to our UM students. Sir Jasper. Ma'am Gina ra. All right, thank you very much. And now that we're nearing the end part of our celebration, okay, I hope that we will continue this kind of conversations. Are you enjoying? Are you having fun? Do you want to have another round of this conversation? Hopefully, you will still accept our invitation. Whether it's from the College of Education or from the Edilberto and Edith Temper Creative Writing Center. And to officially close and perhaps say a few words of thanks from Silliman University, again, we call in the Dean of the College of Education, Dr. Gina Fontejon Bonyor. Let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Thank you, John. You agree with me that this has been a really insightful conversation, right? So let's give a round of applause to our speaker, si Ian and Sir John. And thank you, Ian, for coming, even if tas kay mong hilanat, we really appreciate it. And we are certain that when we leave this room, we are changed. And you have contributed to this change in the way that will affect or influence the way we read and the way we teach. So we would really like to thank you. And Sir John, thank you so much with this very beautiful juxtaposition of how myth and the archetypes, the themes and myths are translated from the past to the present, where our participants are able to connect with. Thank you very much. ECCOES, English Club of the College of Education, was founded in 2011. So this would have been the 15th year. So the ECCOES at the College of Education was founded not only for English majors, but for all of those who are interested in English, in literature, in storytelling. And so I hope that today we have again remembered, because the theme of the Founders Day celebration this year is remembering with gratitude, looking forward with hope. So this conversation has been about remembering. We also remember the organization, among others, has put this together and has thrived through the years, and we encourage the same in all other institutions. And we remember with gratitude all other authors who have touched our lives and have continued to do so through the sharing of our speakers today. Thank you, everyone, for making time for this conversation. Thank you, Sir John, for a very good emceeing. Thank you for hosting. Automatic si Sir John for hosting, and for Ma'am Dube for moderating, and everyone who answered or shared their experiences and questions earlier. Thank you very much. We love you. Take care. Amping sa pagpanguli. And do check out other events for Founders Day. The College of Education is hosting also this Saturday the Student Teacher Summit and Classroom-Based Action Research Conference here at the MPR. And the next week, it's going to be from Ateneo de Manila on August 23 and 24. We have professors from the Ateneo Center for English Language Teaching who will conduct a training on storytelling and teaching reading. And they're training Basa, Bisa, Diwa. That is Tuesday and Wednesday next week. You can check it out online on Facebook, at Silliman website, and College of Education FB page. Daghan kaayong salamat, everyone. God bless you.
And thank you very much to Dr. Gina Bunyor for that. And also, plugging also the activities from the Department of English and Literature during the Founders Week. We do have a special lecture with our visiting professor from De La Salle University, Dr. Dina Roma, that will be on August 24 and 26. Details will follow. You may check out the official Facebook page of the Silliman University Department of English and Literature. Also, our outstanding Sillimanian awardee and a former faculty of the English and Literature Department, Professor Merly Alunan, okay, will be holding a lecture sometime in September. Is there a date already? September 2. So we are also extending that invitation to all our students from the different schools. Hopefully, you will be able to find time to come here in Silliman University and listen to our esteemed professor. So on that note, this has been a very wonderful and engaging morning. Daghang salamat og maayong buntag kanatong tanan. And to officially end all endings, can we have one class picture? Okay, so kindly stay where you are because we'll ask our photographer to please be here on stage. So kindly fix yourself for the last time before. And of course, requesting our resource persons to be at the center, Sir Yan, okay, and Sir John Dante with his lovely staff. Daghang kayong salamat, sir, for coming all the way from Cebu. Maybe some students and members from the SUSG Sociocultural Advocom might not be able to, might not just join us. Okay, so please move forward for the picture taking. Thank you. Ma'am Rika, please come here. All right, and this concludes our gathering this morning. Sa makausapa, daghang salamat og maayong buntag kanatong tanan. All right, for those who were able to purchase copies of the books from our esteemed authors, from Sir John Dante and Sir Ian Rosales Casocot, you may still purchase books outside. For those who were able to purchase, you may approach our... Do we have a table for the book signing? You may approach our authors for a book signing. At the same time, you may engage and interact, okay, with our esteemed authors. So once again, daghang salamat and happy Hibalag, everyone. Thank you.